Beneath a frozen expanse of ice and snow lies a world few have ever glimpsed, a land where history is buried, secrets are frozen in time, and mysteries whisper through the wind. From ancient hidden landscapes to unexplained phenomena that defy our understanding, Antarctica challenges everything we think we know about our planet. Who first walked its desolate plains? What forgotten stories are trapped beneath miles of ice? Tonight, we unravel these enigmas and step into the unknown. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into Antarctica's history and its most haunting mysteries. Beneath the endless white plains of Antarctica, where the wind sculpts the ice into shifting dunes and the horizon melts into a pale, silent void, lies a world almost entirely hidden from human eyes. At first glance, it appears lifeless, an expanse of frozen rock and snow stretching for thousands of miles. Yet beneath this serene exterior, layers of ice, some more than 2 miles thick, conceal secrets that have puzzled explorers, scientists, and historians for decades. What remains undiscovered beneath the ice? Satellite images and ground-penetrating radar have revealed vast lakes, submerged valleys, and jagged mountain ranges buried under glacial armor. Lake Vostok, isolated for more than 15 million years, sits in darkness, cut off from the surface world, a reservoir of potential life and untold geological history. Beneath the ice sheet, rivers of liquid water flow silently, carving hidden landscapes that challenge our understanding of the continent's structure. Yet for every map and data point, there is an unknown, regions so remote or ice-covered that no expedition has yet penetrated them. Historically, human curiosity about Antarctica is relatively recent. The earliest documented sightings date to the early 19th century, yet geological evidence hints that this frozen continent once harbored temperate forests, dinosaurs, and ecosystems thriving long before humans walked the Earth. Fossilized trees and ancient pollen suggest that Antarctica was once a green land, gradually transformed over millions of years by shifting tectonic plates and a cooling climate. Could these ancient layers still contain preserved traces of life that predate modern history? Modern exploration has revealed more puzzles than answers. Subglacial mountains rise like forgotten citadels, some comparable in size to the European Alps, while mysterious heat sources beneath the ice suggest volcanic activity that remains largely uncharted. In 2006, radar scans detected a series of strange, angular formations beneath the ice near Queen Maud Land. Scientists propose natural explanations, ridges formed by tectonic activity, or perhaps the remnants of glaciers carving the bedrock. Yet, images of these structures, sharply defined and geometrically unusual, continue to provoke speculation. Are they purely natural, or might they hint at a history we have not yet understood? Beyond geological mysteries, Antarctica holds historical enigmas as well. Reports of ancient human artifacts, scattered and inconclusive, have surfaced over the decades, sometimes attributed to early seafaring civilizations or lost explorers. Even the cartography of the continent presents questions. Maps from the early 20th century occasionally depict coastlines and landforms that do not match modern surveys. How much did early explorers glimpse that we have since lost to time and ice? Could the continent be hiding remnants of a civilization that predates our current historical record, locked away beneath the glaciers and ice sheets? Scientific inquiry continues to advance, yet every discovery seems to deepen the mystery. Drilling into subglacial lakes has revealed microbial life adapted to extreme cold and pressure, thriving in isolation for millennia. These organisms provide not only clues to Earth's past, but a window into the possibilities of life elsewhere in the solar system, on icy moons like Europa or Enceladus. And yet, for every lake sampled, every kilometer of ice core drilled, there remain vast regions that no instrument has touched, places that may harbor evidence of past climates, ecosystems, or even structures we cannot yet imagine. The silence of the Antarctic ice is profound, almost deliberate. It invites contemplation, a sense of humility before a landscape that is older than human history and indifferent to our presence. As researchers probe its depths with technology that seems almost futuristic, questions accumulate. What stories are locked beneath the ice? What geological and biological marvels lie in the darkness, untouched for millions of years? And what might be lost forever, hidden beneath layers we have not yet penetrated? The answers remain elusive, leaving us to wonder whether we will ever truly know what lies beneath Antarctica's frozen veil. As we lift our gaze from the hidden depths beneath Antarctica's ice, our attention turns to the maps of the past, carefully drawn, meticulously detailed, and yet profoundly puzzling. In libraries and archives across Europe, there exist charts dating back to the 16th and 17th centuries, some of which depict a vast southern landmass remarkably similar in outline to modern Antarctica, but drawn without a trace of ice. Coastlines are clear, bays and mountains are sketched, rivers appear to carve their paths to the sea. For a continent we understand today as a frozen wasteland, these depictions are startling. How could cartographers, centuries before modern exploration and satellite imaging, produce maps of a land hidden beneath miles of ice? One of the most discussed examples is the Piri Reis map, compiled in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. It combines knowledge from multiple sources, including ancient seafarers, to chart the known world. At the southern edge of this map, scholars argue, lies a coastline that corresponds to the northern reaches of Antarctica. Other maps, such as those by Orontius Phineus in 1531, portray the continent in even greater detail, with mountain ranges and river systems that today lie buried under ice sheets. Mainstream historians suggest these representations might be based on extrapolations or older sources of knowledge, perhaps passed down from early explorers or sailors navigating the southern oceans. Yet the accuracy of these depictions continues to invite debate. Could these maps be the product of extraordinary observation, or might they hint at a deeper, more enigmatic past? Antarctica's ice sheets are estimated to have formed gradually over tens of millions of years, with the last major glaciation occurring roughly 34 million years ago. If we assume these ancient maps reflect real observations of the land before it froze, it raises an extraordinary possibility. Were humans, or civilizations with advanced seafaring knowledge, aware of Antarctica's ice-free coastline long before the historical record accounts for exploration in these regions? Some researchers suggest the maps might preserve fragments of knowledge from lost civilizations, whose stories vanished with time, yet whose legacy remains etched on parchment. The maps themselves are objects of fascination. Ink lines, faint yet deliberate, trace landforms that remain invisible to the naked eye today. Scholars note that certain mountain ranges depicted match the underlying bedrock formations revealed only by modern radar surveys, deep beneath kilometers of ice. Rivers, drawn with delicate strokes, follow paths that correspond to subglacial waterways recently discovered by geologists. How did 16th century cartographers know this? Were they guided by oral traditions, speculative geography, or knowledge now lost to history? The answers remain elusive. There is also the question of interpretation. Some suggest these depictions are purely imaginative, the result of attempting to fill blank spaces on maps with conjecture, as was common in early cartography. Others propose that the maps were compilations of fragments from ancient travelers, possibly even predating classical antiquity. Could mariners from civilizations now forgotten have ventured far south, mapping coastlines of a world that would soon vanish beneath ice and time? The mystery deepens when we consider the limitations of the period. Without modern instruments, how could anyone determine latitude or accurately render a coastline hidden from sight? The interplay between fact and speculation is part of what makes these maps so compelling. They occupy a space where historical record, geography, and the imagination intersect. Modern science has confirmed that Antarctica was not always a frozen expanse. Fossils of plants, insects, and even dinosaurs tell a story of a temperate land that once supported thriving ecosystems. Could these maps preserve a memory of that era, carried forward through centuries of human knowledge? Or do they reflect the extraordinary capacity of humans to hypothesize accurately about lands they could not physically see? Examining these ancient charts, one cannot help but feel a sense of temporal vertigo, a connection across centuries, linking the cartographer's hand to the mysteries hidden beneath ice that modern scientists are only beginning to explore. The lines on parchment, delicate yet enduring, invite us to wonder not only about the continent's past, but about the depth and persistence of human curiosity. Perhaps they are reminders that knowledge can survive long after civilizations vanish, encoded in maps, texts, and artifacts waiting to be reinterpreted. And yet, for all the evidence, much remains uncertain. No definitive records explain how these maps were created, and no corroborating accounts of ice-free Antarctic exploration exist in the historical record. The continent itself continues to guard its secrets beneath kilometers of frozen terrain, leaving us with more questions than answers. What stories might lie encoded in these maps that have yet to be uncovered? Could the depictions of an ice-free Antarctica hint at truths lost to time, waiting for modern science to reconcile the past with the present? As we study these maps, tracing the contours of a continent long hidden from human eyes, one is struck by the persistence of mystery. They whisper across centuries, inviting reflection, challenging assumptions, and reminding us that even in an age of satellites and deep-sea probes, Antarctica's history is far from fully understood. Perhaps, beneath the ice and within these ancient depictions, there are still stories waiting to be revealed, questions that will continue to inspire wonder and investigation for generations to come. As we lift our gaze from the mysteries encoded in maps of a distant past, the focus shifts from centuries-old depictions to the stark, windswept reality of modern Antarctica, a land where human ambition has tested the limits of endurance and technology. In the austral summer of 1946, the largest expedition ever mounted to the continent began, Operation Highjump. Fleets of ships, hundreds of men, and aircraft braved the icy fringes of the Southern Ocean, navigating one of the most inhospitable regions on Earth. Antarctica, though largely unexplored at the time, was now at the center of a carefully orchestrated operation that sought to map, study, and establish a foothold in the frozen South. The operation's scale was unprecedented. Led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, a veteran polar explorer, Highjump deployed 4,700 personnel, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft into the uncharted expanses. Its stated objectives were scientific and logistical: aerial mapping, training personnel in cold weather operations, and testing equipment under extreme conditions. On the surface, it was a remarkable achievement in exploration and organization. Yet, despite meticulous planning, the expedition came to an abrupt, puzzling halt. Within months, ships returned, personnel were reassigned, and the operation was officially concluded far sooner than anticipated. Historical records cite practical challenges: severe weather, logistical strain, and the inherent dangers of operating in Antarctica's treacherous environment. These explanations are convincing, yet they leave questions lingering. Why, given the careful planning and resources invested, did such a massive undertaking terminate so suddenly? What, if anything, was encountered that compelled the fleet to withdraw earlier than expected? Over the decades, the abrupt end of Operation Highjump has become a focal point for speculation, drawing the attention of historians and mystery enthusiasts alike. Accounts from the time describe storms of extraordinary ferocity. Temperatures plummeted well below those expected for the season, winds tore through ice-laden ridges, and aircraft were grounded by frost and mechanical failure. The human toll was significant, though surprisingly limited considering the scale. Several lives were lost, and multiple planes were damaged or destroyed. Yet even these hazards do not fully explain the operation's sudden closure. Contemporary reports hint at unexpected obstacles encountered far from the coast, isolated ice formations, sudden shifts in terrain, and perhaps other phenomena that remain poorly documented. Beyond these verified challenges, a veil of mystery has persisted. Speculative narratives suggest that the expedition may have encountered something far more unusual than ice and storm. Some researchers have noted that certain mission logs reference areas where aerial reconnaissance revealed unfamiliar structures beneath the snow and ice, or regions where radio communication behaved erratically. While mainstream historians interpret these mentions as routine observations of harsh conditions or equipment anomalies, they continue to fuel curiosity about whether Highjump glimpsed features of the continent that were previously hidden from human eyes. The timing of the expedition also adds to the intrigue. Operation Highjump took place barely a year after the end of World War II, during an era of heightened interest in polar regions for strategic and scientific purposes. Antarctica was a blank slate on the global map, yet it was immediately subject to intense scrutiny and competition. Could there have been undisclosed objectives beyond mapping and training, objectives so sensitive that records were restricted or obfuscated? The sheer scale of the fleet and the speed of its withdrawal leave room for questions that remain unanswered to this day. In examining photographs and reports from the expedition, one notes the stark, alien beauty of the landscape. Endless ice plains, jagged mountains piercing the horizon, and the occasional dark seam hinting at rocky outcrops. These images, both haunting and majestic, capture the essence of Antarctica as a frontier at once tangible and elusive. For the men who navigated this terrain, each flight and sled journey carried the weight of uncertainty, the possibility of discovery, and the persistent knowledge that the continent could, and often did, defy expectation. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Operation Highjump is what remains unverified. Certain aerial photographs and anecdotal accounts suggest formations that do not conform neatly to known geological features. Whether these were natural anomalies, previously unmapped topography, or something more enigmatic, they exemplify the enduring sense of the unknown that has characterized human interaction with Antarctica for centuries. The abrupt conclusion of the operation, juxtaposed against the scale of the effort, leaves a shadow of unanswered questions. What prompted the early withdrawal? Was it merely the harshness of nature, or were there observations, however fleeting, that challenged conventional understanding? Operation Highjump serves as a reminder that Antarctica is not merely a frozen desert, but a repository of enduring mysteries. From subglacial lakes to ancient maps, and now to the dramatic endeavors of explorers in the 20th century, the continent resists full comprehension. Even today, when satellites scan the ice and researchers drill into its depths, the sudden end of Highjump invites reflection on the limits of human exploration. What lies beyond our current maps? What remains hidden beneath the ice, just out of reach? And what might future expeditions uncover that could change our understanding of this remote land? The answers remain as elusive as the icy horizon itself, a silent testament to Antarctica's enduring power to intrigue, challenge, and inspire wonder. As we reflect on the abrupt end of Operation Highjump, the story of Antarctica's exploration deepens, drawing us toward one figure whose name has become almost synonymous with the continent's mysteries: Admiral Richard E. Byrd. From the air, the frozen expanse unfolds in ways that the human eye cannot fully comprehend. Endless white plains stretching to horizons that shimmer in the low polar light, jagged mountain peaks piercing the ice like ancient sentinels, and vast glaciers flowing silently toward unseen oceans. Byrd's flights over this alien landscape were not mere exercises in navigation or reconnaissance. They were journeys into the unknown, where the limits of human endurance and understanding were tested against a world both beautiful and unforgiving. Byrd's first Antarctic expeditions, beginning in the late 1920s, were celebrated for their courage and scientific achievement. Yet it was the flights that followed, particularly those during and after World War II, that have inspired enduring fascination. In the midst of extreme cold, treacherous weather and near constant darkness, Byrd piloted aircraft over regions that no one had ever seen from the sky. Aerial photographs captured mountains, glaciers, and ice formations with extraordinary detail, revealing landscapes both familiar and entirely alien. These flights were intended to map the continent, survey potential sites for research bases, and collect scientific data. But the accounts Byrd recorded suggest moments that transcend the ordinary bounds of exploration. In his own writings and debriefings, Byrd occasionally hinted at phenomena that did not fit neatly into conventional explanation. In logs from flights over the Ross Ice Shelf and Queen Maud Land, he described unusual reflections on the ice, formations that appeared almost deliberately geometric, and stretches of terrain that seemed inconsistent with known glacial flow patterns. While many of these observations have been interpreted as optical illusions, mirages, or photographic artifacts, the precision and consistency of some reports have fueled speculation. What exactly did Byrd see from hundreds or thousands of feet above the ice? Could he have glimpsed features that remain hidden beneath kilometers of snow today? Among the most compelling aspects of Byrd's polar flights are the so-called long-range reconnaissance missions conducted in 1947 following the conclusion of Operation Highjump. Some declassified documents indicate that Byrd flew deeper into uncharted regions than any expedition before him, covering hundreds of miles over the Antarctic interior. These flights ventured into areas inaccessible by land and beyond the range of most aircraft of the period. Officially, they were described as training exercises, mapping missions, and tests of equipment under extreme conditions. Yet Byrd's own reflections in later interviews hint at a mix of awe, caution, and perhaps unease. He spoke of regions of the continent that defied expectation, where ice formations and topography did not align with contemporary maps. Over the decades, alternative narratives have grown around these flights, blending historical fact with conjecture. Some researchers have suggested that Byrd may have encountered subglacial mountain ranges or vast plateaus that were previously unknown. Others point to anecdotal accounts of radio reports indicating unusual atmospheric conditions, strange readings, and even movements on the ice surface that were difficult to interpret. While there is no verified evidence of extraordinary events, the persistence of these stories reflects the profound mystery of Antarctica itself, a land that both invites and resists human comprehension. Byrd's aerial observations also intersect with questions raised by earlier explorers and ancient maps. Could the formations he recorded correspond in part to the coastlines and features depicted in charts like the Peary Race map, suggesting a continuity of knowledge about the continent that predates modern exploration? The idea is speculative, yet it underscores a recurring theme. Antarctica is a place where the line between known and unknown is blurred, where every scientific measurement and observation opens the door to further questions. From the air, the continent appears as a vast, frozen archive, preserving millennia of geological, climatic, and perhaps even historical records. Technological limitations of the era make Byrd's achievements all the more remarkable. Aircraft were fragile by modern standards. Navigation relied on celestial observation and rudimentary radio signals, and weather forecasting was nearly non-existent. Yet despite these challenges, Byrd's missions produced photographs, maps, and first-hand accounts that continue to inform modern research. Contemporary satellite imagery often confirms many of his observations, from the location of mountain ranges to glacial structures, demonstrating the extraordinary accuracy of his aerial surveys. At the same time, certain anomalies in his photographs and notes remain unexplained, hinting at regions the human eye has only glimpsed briefly and may never fully interpret. Perhaps most intriguing are Byrd's own reflections in interviews and journal entries, where he occasionally referred to a sense of the unknown beyond the ice. "There is a land beyond the world we know," he wrote in one passage, "a vast expanse, beautiful, dangerous, and still unclaimed by those who would chart it. From the air, its immensity is humbling, and its secrets are many." These statements, tempered with scientific observation, suggest that even seasoned explorers recognized the profound unknowability of Antarctica. For Byrd, the flights were as much an encounter with the limits of human perception as they were exercises in mapping or reconnaissance. The mystery of Byrd's polar flights endures precisely because it exists at the intersection of observation and imagination. From the air, Antarctica is a living puzzle, glaciers, mountains, and plains stretching in patterns both familiar and enigmatic. What did Byrd truly see in those remote regions, hundreds of miles from any other human presence? Could there be features beneath the ice he glimpsed only briefly, formations yet to be studied or understood? And perhaps most compelling, does the continent still hold hidden landscapes that no human eye has ever witnessed, waiting silently beneath the frozen expanse, challenging our assumptions and inspiring wonder? As we continue to explore Antarctica's history, Byrd's flights remind us that the continent is not merely a static wilderness, but a place of enduring mystery, where every flight, every observation, every map, and every discovery is part of a story still being written, a puzzle still being pieced together from ice, wind, and human curiosity. The skies he once navigated remain open, vast, and unknowable, calling us to look upward and wonder what lies beyond the horizon of the frozen south. As we leave the daring flights of Admiral Byrd behind, our focus shifts from the uncharted skies to the governance of the continent itself, a place both distant and strategically significant, yet strangely free from conventional sovereignty. Antarctica, unlike any other landmass, exists under a framework that is at once cooperative and enigmatic: the Antarctic Treaty. Signed in 1959 and entering into force in 1961, the treaty established the continent as a zone dedicated to peaceful scientific research, prohibiting military activity and mineral exploitation. Its language is precise, almost clinical, yet the context of its creation invites reflection. What prompted nations to formalize the governance of a continent that was, in many respects, uninhabitable and unexplored? The treaty emerged at a unique moment in history. The post-World War II era was defined by geopolitical tension, the dawn of the Cold War, and a rush to assert influence in remote regions. Nations with scientific and military capabilities began to recognize that Antarctica's strategic value extended beyond its frozen surface. Its position at the southern pole, its vast mineral resources hidden beneath ice, and its potential for scientific advancement rendered it a territory of significant interest, yet one that was extremely difficult to claim in conventional terms. The treaty's architects, representing 12 original signatory nations, framed it as an agreement to prevent conflict, encourage cooperation, and maintain the continent for research. On the surface, these objectives appear straightforward and benevolent. Yet, the circumstances surrounding the treaty's negotiation suggest a subtler narrative. Just a decade earlier, operations like Highjump and Byrd's extensive flights had mapped and surveyed vast regions, revealing more of Antarctica than ever before. Reports of unusual geological formations, potential mineral deposits, and hidden lakes fed curiosity and strategic consideration. Could the treaty, in part, have been a preemptive measure to regulate access to these discoveries? By establishing Antarctica as neutral territory, nations could assert presence without overtly claiming sovereignty, avoiding conflict while retaining a stake in the continent's future. The treaty's restrictions on military activity are particularly intriguing when viewed in historical context. Signatory nations agreed not to establish bases for weapons testing or military operations, yet they retained the right to maintain research stations and conduct scientific work. Could these allowances, framed as scientific, have also served strategic interests? Some researchers speculate that the continent's remote location, combined with limited oversight in the mid-20th century, provided opportunities for testing equipment, monitoring polar conditions, and gathering intelligence under the guise of research. These activities, though largely speculative, point to a tension between overt diplomacy and covert motivation, a tension that has defined human interaction with Antarctica for decades. The environmental protections embedded within the treaty further complicate the narrative. By restricting mining, mineral extraction, and industrial exploitation, the treaty preserved the continent in its frozen state. On one hand, this is a triumph of foresight and conservation. On the other, it raises questions. Were these measures motivated solely by environmental concern? Or did they also serve to protect knowledge and resources that had not yet been fully surveyed? The promise of scientific collaboration, while genuine, may have coincided with a strategic desire to control information about the continent's hidden potential, subglacial lakes, unexplored mountain ranges, and other anomalies that modern researchers continue to investigate. Antarctica's status under the treaty also reflects a unique balance between transparency and secrecy. Research stations share data openly, yet vast regions remain uncharted, inaccessible, or only partially studied. This duality reinforces the sense that the continent is both known and unknown, documented and hidden. The treaty itself becomes part of this dynamic, a formal declaration of peaceful intent, yet a framework that inherently limits the exploitation of knowledge and resources. Could it be that the true motives behind the treaty extend beyond diplomacy, touching on questions of who may, or may not, access the continent's deepest secrets? Historical correspondence and early diplomatic notes suggest that some signatories were motivated by competition as much as cooperation. Nations like the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union had invested heavily in Antarctic expeditions, mapping, and research, and each had an interest in ensuring that no single nation could claim exclusive control. The treaty achieved this goal elegantly, creating a legal framework that emphasized equality and collaboration while postponing, perhaps indefinitely, the question of sovereignty. Yet the rapidity with which it was negotiated and the focus on scientific oversight hints at concerns that extended beyond altruism, concerns tied to what lay beneath the ice and who might be first to uncover it. The interplay of geopolitics, science, and secrecy makes the Antarctic Treaty a particularly compelling chapter in the continent's story. It represents a rare moment when global powers agreed to cooperation over competition, yet it is difficult to separate the idealistic language of the treaty from the strategic considerations that undoubtedly influenced it. Could the treaty have been a way to preserve the continent as a reserve of knowledge, guarding it against premature exploitation while allowing nations to maintain subtle influence? And if so, what discoveries were considered important enough to warrant such careful stewardship? Even today, decades after the treaty's signing, these questions persist. Antarctica remains a frontier where human presence is limited, yet curiosity is boundless. Subglacial lakes, unmapped mountain ranges, and potential mineral deposits continue to elicit investigation, all under the watchful guidance of a framework designed to maintain neutrality. The treaty's legacy is both protective and mysterious. It preserves the continent, yet it raises questions about the motives that shaped it, the knowledge it safeguards, and the possibilities that remain unexplored. As we consider the hidden motives behind the Antarctic Treaty, we are reminded that the continent is not simply a frozen expanse, but a landscape of human ambition, scientific discovery, and strategic consideration. Every regulation, every research station, and every restriction hints at a careful balance between transparency and secrecy, exploration and control. What truths lie beneath the ice that prompted nations to agree on such an unprecedented treaty? And what might future exploration reveal about Antarctica's secrets? Secrets that, for decades, have been shielded under both ice and international accord? The questions remain open, inviting reflection on the delicate intersection of politics, science, and mystery at the southernmost reaches of our world. As we shift our attention from the human politics of Antarctica to the hidden landscapes beneath its icy surface, we enter a world that few have imagined, and even fewer have seen. Beneath the frozen plains, where the ice sheet can reach thicknesses exceeding 2 miles, lie vast subglacial caverns, colossal chambers carved by water, pressure, and time, entirely hidden from the light of the sun. From above, the continent appears static and uniform, a continuous white expanse, but beneath, a labyrinth of lakes, rivers, and caverns flows silently, revealing a complexity that challenges everything we thought we knew about this remote land. Subglacial caverns are not mere anomalies. They are vast, often kilometer-wide spaces, formed over millennia by geothermal heat and meltwater currents. The most famous of these is Lake Vostok, one of the largest subglacial lakes in the world, which stretches roughly 250 kilometers in length. Isolated beneath kilometers of ice for more than 15 million years, it is a chamber of profound mystery. Drilling operations have uncovered microbial life thriving in total darkness and under crushing pressure. Life that has survived without sunlight, perhaps providing a window into ancient ecosystems that existed before the ice sheets formed. Could other, even larger caverns hold similar or entirely unknown forms of life? Radar and seismic surveys have revealed a network of subglacial lakes and connecting channels, forming an underground hydrological system that rivals the complexity of surface rivers. Some of these caverns appear to contain air-filled voids, enormous spaces that could, in theory, house formations similar to caves found above ground. The scale is staggering. Some chambers may exceed the size of metropolitan cities, entirely sculpted by natural processes hidden from human view. The very existence of these caverns raises fundamental questions about geology, climatology, and the resilience of life in extreme environments. Human knowledge of these underground landscapes is still limited. While scientific drilling has allowed glimpses of subglacial lakes, the majority of caverns remain inaccessible. Technological limitations prevent detailed exploration, leaving us to rely on radar images, seismic readings, and careful modeling to imagine the full scope of these spaces. And yet, even these limited tools reveal patterns and formations that hint at extraordinary geological histories. Sediment layers that predate human civilization, mineral deposits untouched for millions of years, and channels carved by subglacial rivers flowing through darkness. Some scientists speculate that subglacial caverns could even harbor records of ancient climates, preserved in ice and sediment, offering clues about Earth's past temperatures, ecosystems, and even catastrophic events. These hidden archives may include traces of prehistoric flora and fauna, fossils preserved under ice, and chemical signatures that could illuminate periods of warming and cooling long before human observation. Could some of these chambers contain remnants of Antarctica's time as a green, temperate continent when dinosaurs roamed its plains and forests flourished? The presence of such vast hidden chambers has also inspired more speculative thought. Some researchers and writers have wondered whether these caverns could hide unknown geological structures or formations that defy conventional explanation. Are there regions where the ice sheet has not compressed the underlying rock, leaving natural halls or caverns of immense size? Could geothermal activity or unique mineral compositions create voids large enough to challenge current models of ice sheet dynamics? While mainstream science remains cautious, the possibilities invite reflection on how much of Antarctica remains unseen, untouched, and unexplored. Even the mechanics of these caverns are fascinating. Water moving beneath the ice slowly carves channels and hollows, creating lakes and tunnels, while the pressure of overlying ice shapes ceilings and walls with incredible precision. In some areas, ice itself forms natural bridges, vaults, and arches that span hundreds of meters. These formations, sculpted over tens of thousands of years, are evidence of the dynamic nature of a continent often thought to be static and inert. And yet, with each discovery comes a reminder of the limits of our understanding. We can map shapes, measure volumes, and analyze water chemistry, but the full reality of these subglacial worlds remains elusive. Exploration is compounded by the extreme conditions. Temperatures in subglacial lakes hover just below freezing. Pressure is immense, and access requires drilling through kilometers of ice. Every sample retrieved carries with it the weight of contamination concerns, the challenge of maintaining integrity, and the technical difficulty of operating in a world of darkness. Yet scientists persist, driven by the tantalizing promise that these hidden caverns may answer some of the continent's deepest mysteries, or pose entirely new ones. Subglacial caverns also blur the line between scientific inquiry and imagination. They are simultaneously physical realities and conceptual gateways to the unknown. Could there be structures beneath the ice formed by processes we do not yet understand? Could ancient rivers, lakes, and voids preserve records not only of climate, but of geological activity unknown to modern science? And if life can persist in these extreme conditions, what does that suggest about the resilience of life elsewhere, in the icy moons of Jupiter or Saturn, or beneath other frozen worlds? Antarctica becomes, in these moments, both a laboratory and a mirror of universal mystery. In contemplating the vast subglacial caverns of Antarctica, we are reminded of the continent's profound duality. From above, it is a frozen desert, austere and unyielding. Beneath, it is a hidden world of flowing water, immense voids, and preserved history, waiting silently for discovery. What else lies in the darkness beneath miles of ice? What structures, ecosystems, or records have remained untouched for millennia? The questions endure, inviting scientists, explorers, and observers to continue probing the ice, even as the continent holds fast to its secrets, offering only glimpses of the mysteries below. From the labyrinth of subglacial caverns, our journey takes us to one of Antarctica's most enigmatic and studied hidden worlds, Lake Vostok. Buried beneath nearly 4 kilometers of ice, it is a lake of staggering proportions, roughly 250 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide, an entire inland sea hidden from sunlight, frozen skies, and human eyes for millions of years. On the surface, Antarctica seems eternal, white, and silent, yet beneath lies this vast, liquid expanse, a world isolated from the atmosphere for an estimated 15 million years. Its discovery reshaped our understanding of what life and landscapes could exist beneath ice. The lake remained unknown until the late 20th century, revealed not by explorers or satellites, but through ice-penetrating radar and seismic surveys. These instruments detected a smooth, reflective surface beneath the ice, a sign of liquid water under immense pressure and extreme cold. Scientists realized they had stumbled upon a remarkable phenomenon. A lake insulated by the thick ice above, kept from freezing entirely by geothermal heat and the pressure of the overlying ice sheet. It is a liquid oasis in a frozen desert, a silent, dark reservoir of both mystery and scientific promise. Accessing Lake Vostok is a monumental challenge. Drilling through 4 kilometers of ice requires careful engineering, and contamination must be strictly avoided to preserve any life forms or chemical signatures within the water. Yet, even before direct sampling, indirect studies revealed tantalizing hints. The lake's water chemistry, influenced by minerals leached from the bedrock, suggests a complex ecosystem. Microbial life adapted to extreme pressure, cold, and darkness may exist, or may have existed uninterrupted for millions of years. Could these organisms represent a form of life entirely separate from surface ecosystems, evolving in isolation under the ice? The extremity of conditions in Lake Vostok invites speculation. Temperatures hover just below freezing, yet the pressure prevents solidification. Sunlight never penetrates these depths. Nutrients must circulate in a closed system, fed by slow movements of water, geological activity, and perhaps even remnants of ancient organic material from when Antarctica was green and temperate. How have microscopic life forms persisted in such isolation? Could they carry genetic traits or biochemical pathways unknown elsewhere on Earth? And if life thrives here, what might it reveal about the potential for life in similar extreme environments elsewhere in the solar system? Beneath the icy crust of Europa or Enceladus. Lake Vostok also challenges our understanding of Antarctica's geological history. The lake sits atop a rift valley in East Antarctica, a depression in the bedrock carved over millions of years. Subglacial channels feed water into and out of the lake, connecting it to other hidden reservoirs beneath the ice. These channels may create currents, distribute nutrients, and sculpt the lake's floor, yet most of this activity remains hidden from direct observation. Remote sensing can detect shapes and depths, but the full character of the lake, its cliffs, sediment layers, and possible microbial habitats, remains beyond human eyes. Intriguingly, early radar surveys suggested features on the lake's bed that resemble submerged hills or plateaus. Some researchers propose these could be natural bedrock formations, while others suggest they might represent ancient geological activity, perhaps volcanic in nature. Whatever their origin, these features hint at a dynamic environment beneath the ice, a landscape that has persisted for millions of years, largely untouched by atmospheric changes that shaped the surface world. Could this lake preserve clues about Antarctica's past climates, ecosystems, or even continental shifts? Drilling expeditions in the 2000s finally reached the lake, carefully releasing water for study without contaminating the environment. Preliminary analyses detected microbial life, confirming suspicions that this isolated ecosystem harbored living organisms. Yet the discoveries raised more questions than answers. What is the diversity of species in the lake? How do they survive in near total darkness, extreme cold, and low nutrient availability? Could undiscovered forms of life exist in deeper, unexplored recesses or in other subglacial lakes connected to Vostok through hidden waterways? Lake Vostok also stirs the imagination beyond biology. Its isolation, scale, and preservation suggest a time capsule of Earth's history, perhaps holding sediments, gases, and biological remnants dating back to the Miocene epoch, or even earlier. Could the lake retain chemical or microbial evidence of periods when Antarctica was ice-free, lush, and inhabited by flora and fauna that no longer exist elsewhere? Every sample taken is a fragment of a story millions of years in the making, a narrative written in water, ice, and rock, largely invisible to the human eye. The lake's mystery is amplified by its isolation. Few humans will ever witness its dark waters firsthand. The vast ice sheet above is both protector and barrier, preserving this ecosystem while keeping it hidden from view. Remote sensing and cautious drilling provide glimpses, yet each discovery only deepens the questions. How extensive are the subglacial networks connecting Vostok to other hidden lakes? Could pockets of life exist that are radically different from any surface ecosystem? And could studying these extremophiles unlock secrets about the resilience and adaptability of life itself? Lake Vostok is a reminder that Antarctica is not merely a frozen wasteland, but a repository of hidden worlds, silent, ancient, and almost entirely inaccessible. Its waters have been isolated for millennia, preserving a record of life, geology, and climate that may never be fully revealed. As we contemplate the dark depths beneath 4 kilometers of ice, we are left with profound questions. What other subglacial oceans await discovery? What secrets are locked beneath the ice, in waters untouched by sunlight or human hands? And what might Lake Vostok ultimately tell us about the resilience of life and the mysteries of our planet yet to be uncovered? From the hidden waters of Lake Vostok, our journey turns to the ancient history of Antarctica, a time when this frozen expanse was not white and barren, but green, vibrant, and teeming with life. Today, the continent is a land of ice, wind, and silence. Yet, beneath the glaciers lie remnants of forests and creatures that thrived millions of years ago. Fossils discovered in exposed rock formations and along coastal cliffs paint a picture of an Antarctica that would be almost unrecognizable to anyone standing there today. Dense woodlands, rivers winding through lush valleys, and reptiles basking in temperate climates. The earliest fossils date back to the Permian and Triassic periods, more than 250 million years ago. Plant fossils, leaves, stems, and pollen grains reveal forests dominated by seed ferns, conifers, and giant horsetails. These forests were not just sparse groves. Evidence suggests dense canopies and complex ecosystems, with rivers and wetlands supporting an abundance of life. Reptilian fossils, including ancient amphibians, crocodile-like creatures, and even early dinosaur species, have been found alongside these plant remains. In some regions, fossilized footprints preserved in sandstone offer a glimpse into the movement of these creatures, frozen in time for hundreds of millions of years. What makes these discoveries particularly remarkable is their location. Modern Antarctica is one of the coldest, driest continents on Earth, a place where liquid water rarely exists and sunlight can be absent for months at a time. Yet the fossils demonstrate that the continent was once warm enough to sustain complex plant life and cold-blooded reptiles. Geological and paleoclimatic studies suggest that Antarctica lay closer to the equator during parts of the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras, forming part of the supercontinent Gondwana. Shifting tectonic plates gradually moved the land southward, exposing it to the extreme climates we see today. Fossils of reptiles, in particular, tell a story of evolution and adaptation that continues to fascinate scientists. Some species were small and nimble, while others were enormous, predatory creatures that roamed the lush forests. The discovery of these fossils challenges assumptions about the global distribution of species during the Mesozoic era. How did these animals survive in Antarctica's long polar winters, which may have involved months of darkness even in warmer periods? Were they migratory, or had they developed unique adaptations to cope with prolonged darkness and seasonal scarcity? Plant fossils add another layer to the mystery. Conifer trunks, now fossilized in rock, indicate towering forests that once covered wide expanses. Fossilized pollen grains suggest diverse ecosystems, with species now extinct and some with relatives in other continents. The presence of coal deposits in certain areas points to dense vegetation that, over millions of years, was buried, compressed, and transformed under layers of sediment and ice. These ancient forests are clues not only to Antarctica's past climate, but to the broader dynamics of Earth's ecosystems during a time when continents were shifting and species were dispersing across Gondwana. The fossil record is incomplete, and much of Antarctica remains hidden beneath ice sheets that average 2 kilometers in thickness. This raises tantalizing questions. How many species, fossilized forests or ancient waterways remain undiscovered beneath the ice? Could Antarctica contain remnants of flora and fauna entirely unknown to modern science, preserved in frozen isolation for millions of years? Every ice core drilled, every geological survey conducted, holds the potential to uncover fragments of this prehistoric world. Moreover, the juxtaposition of these ancient fossils with modern Antarctic conditions underscores the dramatic transformation of the continent. From a green and life-filled land to a frozen desert, Antarctica tells a story of climate change on a geological scale. Fossils provide a direct link to this history, but they also hint at mysteries we have yet to fully comprehend. How rapidly did these changes occur? Were there sudden shifts that forced ecosystems to adapt or perish? And could studying these patterns help us understand the potential impacts of climate change today? Some researchers also speculate about anomalies in the fossil record. Certain plant species appear in layers separated by millions of years, suggesting survival through extreme climatic events or repeated ice ages. Could there be refuges where forests persisted long after surrounding areas froze? Are there undiscovered fossil sites under ice-free mountain peaks or subglacial valleys? The presence of large reptiles in regions now inhospitable challenges scientists to consider how life adapts, migrates, and survives in extreme conditions. Even the process of discovery is remarkable. Scientists must brave harsh weather, high altitudes, and treacherous terrain to reach exposed fossil beds. Each find is carefully extracted, mapped, and analyzed, often revealing details about species' growth patterns, diets, and interactions within their ecosystems. Footprints and trackways preserved in sedimentary rock add a behavioral dimension, offering snapshots of movement and life patterns frozen in time. Yet for every fossil discovered, there are likely thousands more trapped beneath ice, waiting for a rare exposure or an advanced technology capable of detecting them. Fossils of forests and reptiles in Antarctica remind us that the continent we see today is only a fragment of its long and dynamic history. Beneath ice, beyond lakes, and hidden in rock layers, there is a record of life, climate, and ecosystems that stretches back hundreds of millions of years. What other forms of life have been preserved, waiting for the ice to yield its secrets? How did these ancient species survive the shifts from green continents to frozen deserts? And what might these fossils reveal about the broader story of Earth's past and the resilience of life across time and extremes? From the ancient forests and reptiles preserved in Antarctic rock, our attention turns to one of the continent's most profound mysteries, the sudden collapse of its ancient climate. Today, Antarctica is synonymous with ice, sub-zero temperatures, and relentless winds. But millions of years ago, it was a dramatically different world. Fossils and geological records tell of lush forests, abundant waterways, and ecosystems capable of sustaining reptiles and early dinosaurs. And yet, in the span of a geological heartbeat, this green, temperate continent transformed into the frozen desert we know today. The question remains, how and why did this dramatic shift occur? Evidence of this collapse is scattered across the continent in the form of sedimentary layers, fossilized forests, and remnants of ancient lakes. Pollen grains, leaf imprints, and woody debris reveal that Antarctica once experienced warm, humid conditions. Coal deposits indicate thick vegetation and thriving wetland ecosystems. Then, abruptly, these layers vanish, replaced by glacial sediments and ice-rafted debris. The transition is startlingly sharp in the geological record, suggesting a relatively rapid cooling rather than a slow, gradual decline. Could entire ecosystems have disappeared within a few thousand years, overwhelmed by environmental forces beyond their capacity to adapt? Mainstream scientific explanations point to a combination of tectonic shifts, continental drift, and changes in oceanic circulation. As Antarctica drifted toward the South Pole over tens of millions of years, sunlight became weaker, polar winters longer, and glaciation inevitable. The opening of the Drake Passage, separating South America from Antarctica roughly 34 million years ago, allowed the circumpolar current to isolate the continent thermally, dramatically cooling its climate. Yet while these processes explain a long-term cooling trend, they struggle to account for the abruptness recorded in sedimentary layers. What could trigger such a sudden, near-catastrophic collapse in a continent's climate system? Some researchers point to volcanic activity and massive eruptions as potential accelerants. Layers of volcanic ash have been discovered in Antarctic strata, and it is plausible that sudden pulses of volcanic gases, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, could have temporarily altered the atmosphere, causing both cooling and warming episodes. Other hypotheses suggest that asteroid or comet impacts may have contributed, sending debris into the atmosphere and reducing solar radiation. These theories remain speculative but illustrate that Antarctica's climate history is more complex and volatile than previously imagined. Ice cores and sedimentary records provide further clues, revealing fluctuations in atmospheric composition and temperature. Isotopic analyses indicate that the continent experienced rapid swings in temperature, sometimes within mere centuries, far faster than the gradual tectonic cooling alone would suggest. Could such abrupt transitions have triggered mass die-offs of plant and animal species, forcing ecosystems to collapse almost instantaneously? And what does this suggest about the resilience of life when faced with environmental upheaval of extreme magnitude? Another layer of intrigue lies in the timing of these events. Fossil evidence suggests that while some regions became uninhabitable, other areas may have remained as refuges for life, protected by local geography, geothermal activity, or microclimates. Were there pockets of warmth that allowed small populations of flora and fauna to survive, hidden from the sweeping cold? If so, what might these refuges reveal about the adaptability of life in extreme conditions? And could traces of these ecosystems survive in yet undiscovered subglacial regions? Some have also noted correlations between Antarctica's climate collapse and global climatic events, hinting at a planetary interconnectedness. Evidence from other continents shows shifts in ocean currents, glacial expansion, and extinction events that coincide roughly with Antarctica's cooling. Could a combination of regional and global forces have aligned, amplifying the effects of tectonics and geography to produce a sudden, catastrophic climatic transformation? Or is there a more elusive cause, hidden in the depths of Earth's history, that we have yet to recognize? The collapse also raises profound questions about the speed of environmental change. In modern terms, Antarctica's transformation from verdant forests to icy desert occurred over millions of years, but the geological record suggests that significant portions of this transition were surprisingly rapid. Could events like these happen again on a planetary scale, given the right combination of tectonic, atmospheric, and extraterrestrial factors? And how might this inform our understanding of climate systems elsewhere in the solar system, on planets and moons where environmental extremes challenge the persistence of life? Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Antarctica's climate collapse is its mystery. The continent preserves evidence of warmth and life, yet the forces that drove its swift transformation remain only partially understood. Every ice core drilled, every fossil uncovered, and every sediment layer studied offers fragments of the story, but the picture remains incomplete. What we do know is that Antarctica is a place of extremes, capable of dramatic transitions that reshape ecosystems, alter geology, and challenge our understanding of climate history. As we consider Antarctica's sudden ancient climate collapse, we are reminded that the continent is a living archive of Earth's dynamic past. Its ice, sediment, and fossils are more than records. They are clues, preserving moments of radical change and adaptation. What triggered these rapid transitions? Were they solely the result of natural forces, or is there more to the story that lies hidden beneath kilometers of ice? And perhaps most intriguing, what secrets might the frozen continent still hold, waiting for science and curiosity to uncover them, about the resilience and fragility of life on a planet in constant flux? From the frozen remnants of Antarctica's sudden ancient climate collapse, our attention turns to one of the continent's most tantalizing and controversial mysteries, the possibility of prehistoric human presence. Today, Antarctica is the most remote and inhospitable continent on Earth, a frozen expanse where survival demands extraordinary preparation. Yet, fossilized forests, reptiles, and evidence of a temperate climate from millions of years ago suggest a land that was once dramatically different. Could this green and habitable Antarctica have supported human life long before it became a frozen desert? Mainstream science holds that humans never inhabited Antarctica until modern expeditions in the 19th and 20th centuries. The extreme conditions, coupled with the continent's isolation, make sustained habitation improbable under conventional understanding. Yet certain discoveries and claims have sparked speculation. Ancient artifacts, unusual rock formations, and anecdotal reports from early explorers have prompted researchers to consider whether humans, or at least human-like visitors, may have reached Antarctica far earlier than the historical record suggests. While none of these claims are universally accepted, the questions they raise cannot be dismissed outright. Some proponents of this theory point to unusual stone formations discovered on exposed ridges and coastal areas. In some cases, these rocks appear deliberately shaped, resembling tools or structures. Could these have been shaped by glacial activity alone, or is it possible that early humans left a mark on this land before it became a frozen wilderness? The challenge lies in dating and interpreting such evidence. Ice sheets advance and retreat, shifting and reshaping landscapes over millennia, making it difficult to distinguish natural formations from intentional modification. Yet the mere presence of anomalies invites inquiry. What if traces of human activity have simply been preserved beneath ice, waiting to be revealed? The geological record provides tantalizing possibilities. During the periods when Antarctica was green, warm, and capable of sustaining forests and freshwater lakes, humans or human-like species could, in theory, have survived in coastal regions or ice-free valleys. Migration patterns across Gondwana and land bridges between continents raise further questions. Could early humans, equipped with rudimentary technology, have navigated southern regions that are now inaccessible beneath kilometers of ice? While these scenarios are speculative, they underscore how drastically Antarctica's climate and geography have changed over tens of millions of years. Historical anecdotes add another layer of intrigue. Some early 20th century explorers reported unusual markings, stone arrangements, and even shallow depressions in areas of exposed rock. While most of these observations are attributed to natural erosion, frost heaving, or glacial processes, their consistency in multiple locations fuels curiosity. Could there have been ephemeral human settlements, perhaps temporary camps used during periods when the climate allowed for habitation? And if so, what evidence might still survive beneath the ice, frozen and shielded from time? Subglacial caverns, lakes like Vostok, and the vast hidden networks of waterways beneath Antarctica raise further questions. Could isolated refuges beneath the ice have preserved signs of life that predate the last glacial maximum? If humans, or their precursors, once ventured into Antarctica during warmer periods, traces might exist today in areas unreachable by traditional exploration methods. The concept stretches the limits of current science, yet it also highlights the extraordinary isolation and preservation potential of subglacial environments. Could the ice, in fact, be keeping secrets about humanity's distant past, waiting for technology or circumstance to reveal them? Connections to other ancient civilizations have also been suggested, though they remain speculative. Maps and legends from distant continents occasionally depict southern lands beyond the known world. Some interpretations suggest these could correspond to regions of Antarctica before the ice sheets formed, potentially hinting at ancient knowledge of these lands. While mainstream archaeology dismisses such claims as coincidence or misinterpretation, the persistence of these stories invites reflection. Could Antarctica's prehistory be more complex than the current scientific consensus allows? Even the biological evidence provides clues that fuel curiosity. Fossils indicate that the continent was once capable of sustaining terrestrial life, including reptiles and forests. If these ecosystems existed, then they could, in theory, have supported transient human activity. The real question lies in timing. When did the climate become so inhospitable that permanent habitation became impossible? Could humans have arrived during a narrow window of opportunity, only to vanish as ice advanced, leaving no trace except the occasional anomaly now revealed through satellite imagery or exposed rock? Perhaps the most compelling aspect of this mystery is its combination of plausibility and impossibility. Antarctica's extreme remoteness challenges the notion of prehistoric human presence, yet its temperate past makes it conceivable. Every discovery, from unusual rock formations to preserved sediment layers, offers a tantalizing hint that there may be more to the continent's history than modern science has documented. And if humans or human-like beings did visit or inhabit Antarctica, even briefly, what stories, technologies, or adaptations might they have left behind, hidden beneath kilometers of ice? As we contemplate the possibility of prehistoric human presence, we are reminded that Antarctica is a land of extremes, not only in climate and geography, but also in the depth of its mysteries. The continent holds evidence of life, ecosystems, and climates that no longer exist anywhere on Earth, as well as the potential for secrets waiting to be uncovered. Could traces of early human activity still lie frozen in ice or buried in rock, silently preserved for millennia? And if so, what might they reveal about humanity's reach, resilience, and the forgotten chapters of our own distant past? As we leave behind the tantalizing possibility of prehistoric humans, our gaze rises, far above the icy expanse of Antarctica, beyond the reach of explorers and satellites, to a perspective that few have seen firsthand. From space, Antarctica appears as a vast, endless sea of white, punctuated by jagged mountain ranges and ridges sculpted over millions of years. Yet amidst this frozen landscape, some observers have noted formations that stand out against the natural contours. Pyramid-shaped peaks, symmetrical and distinct, rising sharply from the ice like monuments frozen in time. These formations, visible even in satellite imagery, have captured the imagination of scientists, explorers, and curious minds alike, raising questions that blend geology, history, and mystery. The formations in question are typically isolated mountains or peaks that, when viewed from above, appear remarkably regular in shape. Their triangular faces, sharp ridges, and pointed summits evoke images of human-made pyramids, yet they are located in one of the most inhospitable and least accessible regions on Earth. Satellite imaging and aerial surveys have provided striking visual evidence, revealing geometric patterns that seem out of place amidst the randomness of natural erosion. Could these be mere coincidences of geology, shaped by millennia of glacial carving and tectonic pressure? Or is there something more to these formations, a hidden chapter of Antarctica's story yet to be uncovered? Mainstream geological explanations suggest that these pyramid-like peaks are nunataks, mountain peaks that protrude through the ice sheet. Over millions of years, the relentless movement of glaciers, combined with freeze-thaw cycles, erosion, and wind, has sculpted these peaks into sharp, angular forms. The symmetry observed in some formations may result from natural forces acting consistently across similar rock types and structures. In this view, what appears almost deliberate is the outcome of nature's precise and patient work, a testament to the sculpting power of ice, time, and pressure. Yet the visual precision of certain formations invites speculation. When images are viewed from specific angles, some peaks exhibit a near-perfect triangular shape, with edges and slopes that suggest regularity unusual in natural mountain formations. The question arises, is it possible that past human civilizations, or even unknown technological cultures, interacted with these landscapes in ways that shaped them into recognizable geometries? Could there have been a time, before the ice sheets advanced, when these peaks were accessible and perhaps even significant landmarks? While there is no direct evidence of human activity, the symmetry captured from satellite imagery continues to intrigue researchers and enthusiasts. Some fringe theories extend even further, connecting these formations with ancient knowledge, lost civilizations, or advanced prehistoric cultures. Proponents point to global patterns. Pyramids, temples, and geometrically precise structures appear on multiple continents, often in isolation and aligned with celestial or geological markers. Could Antarctica, in its ice-free past, have been home to similar structures, now concealed beneath ice and snow? Could natural formations have been modified or enhanced by intelligent hands, leaving subtle traces that survive only as the outlines visible from orbit? These ideas remain speculative, yet the very persistence of the visual anomalies raises profound questions about the continent's hidden past. Scientific inquiry into these formations has been cautious but persistent. Geologists examine rock composition, erosion patterns, and the effects of glaciation to determine the forces responsible for the peak's shapes. Many suggest that repeated glacial abrasion and pressure-driven fracturing could account for the sharp angles and apparent symmetry. Others note that volcanic activity, common in Antarctic mountain ranges, can produce conical or pyramid-like peaks naturally. Yet even with plausible explanations, the images inspire wonder. The sheer regularity, combined with the continent's history of climate change and isolation, leaves room for questions that science has yet to fully answer. Beyond geology, the formations invite broader reflection on perception and interpretation. Satellite imagery provides a perspective impossible to achieve on the ground, revealing angles and alignments that human eyes rarely see. Patterns emerge that may seem deliberate, yet are entirely natural. How do we distinguish coincidence from design? How much of what appears anomalous is shaped by our desire to find meaning in a landscape that is both vast and unfamiliar? These questions illustrate the subtle interplay between observation, expectation, and mystery, a dynamic that makes Antarctica a unique canvas for human curiosity. The context of Antarctica's geological past adds further intrigue. During warmer periods, when the continent supported forests, rivers, and reptilian life, these peaks may have been exposed landforms visible and accessible to ancient species, including, hypothetically, early humans or human-like visitors. Could these formations have served as landmarks, ceremonial sites, or navigational aids? Could their shapes, preserved under layers of ice for millions of years, be the last echoes of a time when Antarctica was dramatically different, green, warm, and alive? Some researchers also highlight the role of erosion and differential glacial movement in producing strikingly regular shapes. Ice flowing across rock can create sharp edges, polished faces, and triangular peaks, while repeated freeze-thaw cycles accentuate fractures along natural plains. Yet even the most precise models acknowledge that the resulting symmetry is rare, and that the most striking formations still defy easy explanation. Could there be factors we have yet to identify, subtle geological or climatic influences that enhance the angularity of these peaks? Or, more provocatively, could there be traces of interaction, natural or otherwise, that amplify their geometric appearance? The intrigue is compounded by Antarctica's extreme isolation. These formations exist in regions rarely visited by humans, often requiring specialized aircraft or satellite imagery for observation. Their inaccessibility ensures that most interpretations are derived from remote sensing rather than direct examination. Each new satellite pass, each adjustment in imaging technology, brings the formations into sharper focus. Yet the fundamental questions remain. Are we seeing coincidence, natural artistry, or hints of a history buried under ice and time? Ultimately, the pyramid-shaped formations of Antarctica serve as a reminder of the continent's capacity to inspire awe and speculation. They are at once geological phenomena, visual enigmas, and gateways to the imagination. Are they entirely the product of natural forces, or could remnants of an ancient ice-free world be encoded in their shapes, waiting to be discovered? And if human or intelligent interaction played a role, what might it reveal about the lost chapters of our planet's prehistory? As we contemplate these peaks from space, we are confronted with the duality of Antarctica itself, a place of extreme science and extreme mystery, where every ridge, peak, and shadow could hold a story frozen in time. The pyramid-shaped formations invite observation, reflection, and curiosity, standing as silent sentinels over a continent that guards its secrets beneath miles of ice. What else lies hidden, invisible to the human eye, awaiting the day when the ice releases the full measure of Antarctica's extraordinary and mysterious past? From the striking pyramid-shaped peaks captured by satellite imagery, our journey turns to a more obscure and unsettling facet of Antarctica's story: suppressed geological surveys. Beneath the continent's icy surface lies a world largely inaccessible, hidden by kilometers of ice, where the usual tools of exploration are challenged by extreme cold, isolation, and shifting glaciers. Yet, despite these obstacles, numerous geological surveys have been conducted over the past century, some publicly acknowledged, others shrouded in secrecy, with results that hint at anomalies, unusual formations, and geological features that do not fit neatly within conventional scientific understanding. The question lingers: what might have been discovered, and why has access to certain findings been restricted or delayed? From the mid-20th century onward, various nations embarked on extensive geological mapping and mineral prospecting across Antarctica. Officially, the focus was on understanding tectonic structures, ice dynamics, and potential resources beneath the ice. However, certain surveys, particularly those conducted during the Cold War era, remain cloaked in ambiguity. Military and scientific expeditions sometimes overlapped, with dual objectives of exploration and strategic reconnaissance. Reports from this period mention restricted zones, classified findings, and survey results that were never released publicly, even when they suggested unusual geological features. What lies beneath these blank spots on the maps, and why were they deemed sensitive or inconvenient to share? Radar and seismic surveys have revealed vast subglacial mountains, valleys, and cavities, features that occasionally defy expectations. Some areas exhibit unusual magnetic readings, while others show dense concentrations of bedrock formations in patterns that are difficult to reconcile with standard models of continental geology. Official publications often summarize results in general terms, yet anecdotal accounts from scientists and explorers suggest that more detailed data indicated anomalies that challenged prevailing theories. Were these anomalies simply considered anomalous, or was there a deliberate decision to limit dissemination due to geopolitical, economic, or scientific sensitivities? The history of Antarctic exploration itself provides clues to the suppression of information. During the post-World War II era, expeditions such as Operation Highjump undertook large-scale mapping, aerial reconnaissance, and drilling missions across vast swaths of the continent. While these missions produced invaluable cartographic and geological data, portions of the findings were classified, especially if they revealed mineral resources, unusual landforms, or unexplained structures beneath the ice. Researchers later noted that certain areas, despite being surveyed multiple times, appeared absent from detailed maps or were marked ambiguously in official archives. Why would specific regions be repeatedly surveyed yet remain off-limits to general scientific scrutiny? Some of the more curious anomalies identified by these surveys involve unexpected topographical features beneath the ice. Subglacial mountains, deep cavities, and angular ridges appear in locations where geology alone cannot easily explain them. Certain radar images hint at linear or geometric formations beneath kilometers of ice, echoing, perhaps coincidentally, the pyramid-shaped peaks visible from orbit. Could these hidden structures be entirely natural, sculpted by glacial and tectonic processes? Or do they suggest something more enigmatic, geological phenomena that challenge standard models and warrant careful scrutiny before being released? Suppressed surveys also extend to mineralogical investigations. Antarctica is thought to contain vast reserves of rare earth metals, iron, and other strategic minerals, yet international treaties and political considerations limit exploitation. During the early years of exploration, some nations conducted detailed subsurface scans and geophysical surveys that identified rich deposits. While publicly framed as routine research, internal reports indicate that access to certain findings was restricted, ostensibly to prevent disputes or encourage compliance with international agreements. The suppression of data in this context raises questions about what has been discovered, how much remains undisclosed, and whether political considerations outweigh scientific curiosity. The phenomenon of suppressed surveys is further complicated by technological limitations and environmental challenges. Even today, kilometers of ice, extreme cold, and unpredictable weather restrict the precision and frequency of data collection. Early expeditions, working with limited radar, seismic, and aerial imaging, had to contend with errors, equipment failure, and incomplete coverage. When anomalies appeared, whether unusual magnetic fields, subglacial formations, or unexplained sediment layers, these could be classified as uncertain, sensitive, or inconclusive. Yet the repeated recurrence of anomalies across independent surveys suggests that there is more beneath the ice than is fully acknowledged in public records. Some historians and researchers speculate that the suppression of data may also relate to phenomena that challenge conventional geological or climatological models. Could Antarctica's subglacial features, for example, preserve evidence of ancient civilizations, unrecorded tectonic events, or unusual energy sources? While these ideas remain speculative, the lack of full transparency in survey records leaves room for inquiry. When data is withheld, even for mundane reasons such as political sensitivity, it naturally invites curiosity about what might be hidden from view, and whether some anomalies were judged too difficult to explain within the prevailing scientific framework. Even today, Antarctica's remote locations are surveyed selectively, often by satellite radar, ice-penetrating sonar, and airborne magnetometers. Each new mission occasionally confirms previously suppressed anomalies, while other areas remain largely unexplored. The interplay between secrecy, accessibility, and mystery ensures that certain regions of Antarctica retain an aura of the unknown. These blank zones on the maps, punctuated by unusual readings or geometric formations beneath the ice, continue to challenge our understanding of the continent's geology and history. The broader question remains: what motivates the suppression of geological surveys? political considerations, strategic interests, and environmental treaties provide some answers, yet they may not account for every anomaly. Could there be features beneath the ice that are genuinely difficult to interpret, whose existence complicates current scientific models or raises uncomfortable questions about Antarctica's past? Are we looking at natural formations, previously unknown geological processes, or traces of something more enigmatic, intentionally obscured, or simply overlooked? Suppressed geological surveys remind us that Antarctica is a continent where observation, discovery, and mystery intersect. Even as satellites orbit overhead and ice-penetrating technology grows more sophisticated, vast swaths of terrain remain partially mapped, partially understood, and partially hidden from public scrutiny. Every suppressed report, every blank map, every unexplored ridge is a silent invitation to question what is known and what remains undiscovered. What lies beneath kilometers of ice, behind the decisions to withhold data, and beyond the reach of even our most advanced instruments? And perhaps most intriguingly, how much of Antarctica's hidden history will remain invisible until someone ventures into these regions with both curiosity and patience, ready to uncover truths that have lain concealed for millennia? Concealed from the hidden depths of Antarctica's suppressed geological surveys, we turn our attention to a phenomenon that resonates across vast distances, transcending the continent's icy isolation: unexplained radio signals emanating from the frozen south. Antarctica, remote and seemingly silent, is in fact a hub for scientific communication, with research stations relying on radio waves to maintain contact with the outside world. But over decades, researchers and amateur radio enthusiasts have reported signals that defy explanation: intermittent transmissions, repeating pulses, and mysterious frequencies that seem to originate from deep within the ice or its surrounding oceans. Could these signals be the product of natural phenomena, technological interference, or something far more enigmatic? The reports span decades, with some of the earliest observations recorded during the mid-20th century as research stations expanded their reach across the continent. Engineers and radio operators noted static anomalies, unexpected patterns, and signals that did not correspond to known communication systems. Some were fleeting, disappearing as quickly as they appeared, while others repeated at regular intervals, as though following a deliberate cadence. The phenomenon captured the attention of both scientific and military observers, prompting further investigation, though definitive explanations were elusive. Scientific attempts to interpret these signals have produced a range of possibilities. One explanation points to natural electromagnetic phenomena. Antarctica's unique geology, vast ice sheets, and underlying rock formations can influence radio wave propagation, producing strange reflections, echoes, and amplifications. The continent is also subject to extreme geomagnetic activity, particularly near the South Magnetic Pole, where interactions between solar winds and Earth's magnetic field create auroral emissions and radio disturbances. Could these natural processes account for the most anomalous signals, or is there something that escapes conventional physics? Another explanation involves atmospheric conditions. The combination of polar cold, dense ice layers, and ionospheric fluctuations can create conditions in which radio waves bend, resonate, or even appear to originate from locations far beyond their source. In some cases, signals initially attributed to unknown origins were later linked to distant transmissions reflecting off the upper atmosphere or ice surfaces. Yet certain signals resist these explanations, exhibiting structure, repetition, or intensity that seem inconsistent with purely natural or atmospheric causes. Could there be sources within the ice itself, generating energy in ways that remain mysterious to modern science? The timing and location of some signals add further intrigue. Research stations have occasionally detected anomalies near regions previously noted for suppressed geological surveys or subglacial structures. While correlation does not imply causation, the pattern raises questions. Could there be geological or hydrological sources capable of producing electromagnetic emissions beneath the ice? Subglacial lakes, deep fractures, or mineral deposits might, in theory, influence the generation or modulation of radio waves. And if so, why have these phenomena persisted for decades without full explanation? Some speculative theories extend beyond geology and physics. A small but persistent body of observers has suggested that the signals could indicate technological activity, ancient, hidden, or otherwise unrecognized. Could there be remnants of advanced prehistoric civilizations buried beneath the ice? Could modern anomalies reflect undisclosed human activity, military experiments, or experimental equipment left in Antarctica's extreme isolation? While these ideas remain unverified, the mere persistence of unexplained signals invites consideration of possibilities that lie at the edge of conventional science. Radio signals in Antarctica are further complicated by the continent's unique magnetic environment. The proximity to the South Magnetic Pole affects how electromagnetic waves travel, potentially creating unusual resonances and distortions. Researchers have noted that some anomalous signals seem to align with periods of heightened solar activity, while others appear entirely independent of solar influences. Could there be subtle interactions between Earth's geomagnetic field, subglacial structures, and atmospheric conditions that produce signals we cannot yet fully understand? Or might there be patterns deliberately encoded within the transmissions, waiting for interpretation? Researchers today continue to monitor Antarctica for electromagnetic activity. Modern stations employ high-frequency receivers, broadband spectrum analyzers, and satellite-linked monitoring systems. Each new discovery adds fragments to the puzzle: unexpected pulses, repeating patterns, and occasional low-frequency oscillations, but the overarching mystery remains intact. What is particularly striking is that these signals often resist categorization. They are not merely static or noise. Some exhibit coherence, repetition, or behavior that suggests an underlying structure, yet one that does not conform to any known source or pattern. Unexplained radio signals, like the suppressed surveys and pyramid-shaped peaks that preceded them, underscore a fundamental truth about Antarctica. It is a continent of extremes and enigmas. It preserves evidence of deep time, hidden ecosystems, and forces beyond immediate human understanding. Signals that traverse the ice, reflected, refracted, or emitted from unknown sources, act as a subtle reminder that the continent is still speaking in ways we have yet to decode. Are these transmissions purely natural? Echoes of the planet's geomagnetic heartbeat, or something more, traces of activity lost to history, encoded in the frozen landscape, waiting for discovery? As we consider these unexplained radio signals, we are confronted with the limits of human knowledge in a place defined by isolation and extremes. The continent continues to guard its secrets beneath kilometers of ice and layers of geological history. Could these signals be the whispers of Antarctica itself, revealing hidden processes, subglacial phenomena, or remnants of a past civilization? Or are they echoes of natural forces so rare and complex that even modern science struggles to interpret them fully? The answers remain elusive, yet the signals persist, inviting both curiosity and wonder. They remind us that, in Antarctica, the boundary between the known and the unknown is as stark and as mysterious as the ice itself. From the ethereal whispers of unexplained radio signals, we turn our attention to forces more subtle, yet profoundly enigmatic: Antarctica's magnetic and gravitational anomalies. Across the continent, measurements taken by satellites, airborne surveys, and ground-based instruments have revealed regions where the Earth's magnetic field behaves unpredictably, and gravity itself seems to fluctuate. These are not minor deviations. They are anomalies that defy straightforward explanation, hinting at hidden structures, unique geology, and perhaps processes that challenge our conventional understanding of planetary science. In Antarctica, even the invisible forces surrounding the land are imbued with mystery. Magnetic anomalies in Antarctica have been observed for decades, first noted during early mid-20th century expeditions. Scientists mapping the geomagnetic field detected areas where compass readings deviated sharply from predictions, sometimes by several degrees. While much of this can be attributed to local variations in iron-rich rock, certain regions exhibit more extreme or irregular patterns, resistant to explanation. Some anomalies appear near subglacial mountain ranges or in areas where radar has revealed deep cavities beneath ice sheets, suggesting a connection between the continent's hidden structures and its magnetic behavior. Could these readings be entirely geological in origin, or might there be factors yet to be understood influencing the field? Gravitational anomalies add another layer to the enigma. Antarctica's massive ice sheets exert enormous pressure on the underlying crust, deforming rock and creating subtle variations in gravitational pull. Yet surveys reveal regions where gravity deviates from what models predict, sometimes indicating dense structures buried beneath ice or uneven distribution of mass in the Earth's crust. Some anomalies are linked to known geological features, such as subglacial mountains or dense mineral deposits. Others, however, appear in locations that remain poorly explored, areas inaccessible to direct observation. What lies beneath these hidden expanses that could account for such variations? And could the anomalies themselves hint at structures or phenomena entirely unknown? Historical data provides a fascinating context. During Operation Highjump and other large-scale Antarctic missions, magnetic and gravimetric measurements were recorded alongside topographic and radar mapping. Certain areas flagged as anomalous in early reports were later classified or suppressed, leaving gaps in publicly available data. Even today, satellite missions such as GRACE, Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, and ESA's GO-SEA, Gravity Field and Steady-State Ocean Circulation Explorer, provide high-resolution gravity maps, confirming irregularities in regions long thought uniform. These anomalies are not random. They form patterns that suggest the presence of mass concentrations, subglacial structures, or even previously unrecognized geological formations. Some anomalies coincide with locations of other Antarctic mysteries. Areas showing unusual magnetic or gravitational behavior often align with pyramid-shaped peaks, suppressed survey zones, and regions from which unexplained radio signals have been detected. While this correlation does not prove causation, it suggests that these anomalies are more than mere quirks of measurement. Could Antarctica's hidden mass distributions influence electromagnetic phenomena, or even interact with the crust and ice in ways that amplify signals and create the anomalies we detect from orbit? Geophysicists offer explanations grounded in known science. Variations in magnetic readings may result from concentrated iron or nickel deposits in bedrock, while gravity anomalies can arise from dense rock structures, subglacial mountains, or differences in ice thickness. The continent's tectonic history, including its position within Gondwana, volcanic activity, and continental drift, further complicates interpretations. Yet even when models account for these factors, some readings remain perplexing. Too extreme, too structured, or too localized to fit neatly within conventional frameworks. What processes could produce these deviations with such precision, and why have they persisted undisturbed for millions of years beneath Antarctica's ice? Speculative theories occasionally attempt to connect these anomalies with phenomena beyond standard geology. Some suggest that unusual energy fields could arise from unknown mineral formations or even hidden cavities beneath the ice that act as natural electromagnetic amplifiers. Others propose that these anomalies may hint at subglacial hydrothermal activity or volcanic processes not yet fully understood. More fringe ideas connect magnetic irregularities with the possibility of lost civilizations, advanced prehistoric technology, or extraterrestrial influences, interpretations that remain speculative but capture the imagination when considering the isolated and largely unexplored nature of the continent. The science of measuring anomalies itself highlights Antarctica's complexity. The ice sheets, which can exceed 2 kilometers in thickness, distort both magnetic and gravitational readings. Seasonal changes, ice movement, and underlying geothermal activity add layers of variability. Satellite sensors detect minute fluctuations over vast regions, but interpreting these signals requires disentangling overlapping influences, from ice mass changes to crustal density, from solar activity to geomagnetic drift. That some patterns consistently defy explanation makes Antarctica a laboratory for both geophysics and the limits of observation. Perhaps most striking is the persistence of these anomalies. Unlike the fleeting radio signals or isolated suppressed surveys, magnetic and gravitational deviations remain measurable over time, suggesting that whatever causes them is stable and long-lived. Are these the echoes of geological processes dating back hundreds of millions of years, preserved beneath the ice? Or could they reflect something more complex, a hidden network of features, natural or otherwise, that science has yet to fully explore? The very consistency of these anomalies amplifies the mystery, as if the continent is quietly guarding knowledge of its hidden depths. The anomalies also invite reflection on the interplay between visibility and invisibility. Antarctica's most profound mysteries are not always on the surface. They exist in fields we cannot see, forces that shape the land, influence instruments, and interact with ice and water beneath our feet. Magnetic and gravitational irregularities remind us that even in a place as seemingly inert as a frozen continent, dynamic forces persist, invisible yet measurable, hinting at structures, movements, and histories we have only begun to understand. Ultimately, Antarctica's magnetic and gravitational anomalies challenge our perception of the continent as a static, lifeless expanse. They reveal a land alive with hidden forces, sculpted by ancient geological processes and punctuated by phenomena that resist conventional explanation. Are these variations entirely natural, the result of tectonics, mineral composition, and ice dynamics? Or do they hint at something more? Hidden structures, ancient landscapes preserved beneath ice, or even interactions between geology and other anomalous phenomena? The answers remain elusive, yet the anomalies persist, inviting observation, curiosity, and continued exploration. As we consider these forces, invisible yet measurable, we are reminded that Antarctica is more than ice, rock, and snow. It is a repository of secrets, a continent where gravity and magnetism themselves bear witness to hidden histories. What lies beneath the frozen surface, shaping forces we can detect but not fully comprehend? And what other anomalies, silent and subtle, await discovery, revealing the continent's extraordinary mysteries to those patient enough to observe and wonder? As we move from the invisible forces of magnetic and gravitational anomalies, our focus shifts to something less tangible, yet equally compelling: the human record, or the absence of it. Antarctica, a land of extremes and isolation, has long challenged those who sought to document it. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, explorers braved blizzards, sub-zero temperatures, and treacherous terrain, leaving behind logs, journals, and scientific notes that would chronicle their discoveries. Yet as researchers pore over historical archives, a pattern emerges. Entries are missing, pages have disappeared, and in some cases, official records appear to have been altered, edited, or deliberately sanitized. What drove these erasures, and what might have been lost beneath the frost of time and bureaucracy? From the earliest expeditions of the heroic age, explorers recorded meticulous observations of geography, weather, and ice formations. Figures like Roald Amundsen, Robert Falcon Scott, and Ernest Shackleton left journals that offer invaluable insight into the harsh realities of Antarctic travel. Yet alongside these preserved accounts are notable gaps. Certain expeditions, particularly those linked to military or governmental programs in the mid-20th century, produced records that were never fully archived or were later classified. These omissions are not trivial. They pertain to areas surveyed, observations made, and sometimes unusual phenomena encountered, features that, if recorded accurately, could alter our understanding of the continent's history and geography. Consider the case of Operation Highjump, one of the largest Antarctic expeditions in history. Official reports describe mapping, aerial reconnaissance, and scientific experimentation. Yet, in reviewing the logs, historians note missing pages, censored entries, and inconsistencies between pilot reports and published summaries. Some references to unexpected terrain, anomalous structures, or electromagnetic readings appear to have been removed or downplayed. Why would such information, ostensibly within the scope of scientific inquiry, be withheld or altered? Was it an effort to maintain operational secrecy, or was there a deliberate attempt to obscure evidence that challenged prevailing understanding? The trend continues into later decades. Cold War-era expeditions, often with dual scientific and military objectives, produced vast amounts of data. Sonar readings, ice-penetrating radar results, and topographic surveys. In several instances, portions of these records are missing or inaccessible to the public, with official explanations citing national security or incomplete archival procedures. Yet independent researchers have reported discrepancies, logs that refer to features not found in official maps or measurements of phenomena, such as unusual rock formations or subglacial anomalies that vanish in subsequent publications. Could these inconsistencies simply reflect bureaucratic error, or do they hint at a broader pattern of suppression? Some missing or altered records involve areas that intersect with other Antarctic mysteries. Locations flagged in early surveys for unusual magnetic or gravitational readings, pyramid-shaped peaks, or anomalous radar reflections sometimes correspond to gaps in documentation. Was information deliberately removed to prevent dissemination of knowledge about subglacial structures, potential resources, or unexplained natural phenomena? Or might the anomalies themselves have been deemed too controversial to include in official accounts, resulting in selective editing or omission? The human factor adds further complexity. Journals and logs were sometimes rewritten, summarized, or translated, introducing opportunities for inadvertent alteration. Yet some alterations appear deliberate. Entries that once described unusual formations, transient lights, or anomalous signals are either minimized, reworded, or excised entirely. Modern archivists, when tracing the provenance of such documents, occasionally encounter conflicting copies, each version telling a slightly different story. In the absence of the original records, researchers are left to reconstruct events from fragments, raising the possibility that key information may be permanently lost. A particularly intriguing aspect involves mid-20th century scientific expeditions, which were equipped with advanced equipment for their time: magnetometers, gravimeters, sonar, and aerial photography. In reviewing the associated logs, analysts have noted discrepancies between field notes and final reports. Observations of subglacial formations, unexpected ice-free zones, or unusual energy readings are sometimes omitted entirely. The rationale, when provided, is often vague, citing unverified results or preliminary measurements. But the consistency of such omissions across multiple expeditions suggests a pattern worth examining. What might these missing entries reveal if they were made available today? Speculative possibilities abound. Some suggest that altered or missing records could conceal evidence of prehistoric structures, unknown ecosystems, or even artifacts left by early human or intelligent activity. Others point to the geopolitical context of Antarctica. During the Cold War, information about resources, ice-free regions, and subglacial lakes could have had strategic implications, motivating censorship or selective dissemination. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the delicate interplay between exploration, documentation, and secrecy on the world's most remote continent. The phenomenon is not limited to historical expeditions. Even in modern research programs, gaps in data or inconsistencies between field logs and published reports continue to raise questions. Ice-penetrating radar scans, subglacial surveys, and geological mappings are sometimes incomplete or delayed in release, whether due to technical, bureaucratic, or environmental challenges. While much of this is understandable given Antarctica's harsh conditions, the persistence of unexplained gaps feeds the narrative of a land that guards its secrets with an almost conscious vigilance. Perhaps most compelling is the sense of absence itself. Missing expedition logs and altered records leave invisible traces. We know something was documented, yet we cannot access the details. This absence shapes the way Antarctica is perceived, casting the continent as a place not only of extreme ice and isolation, but also of deliberate mystery. It reminds us that human understanding of this frozen world is incomplete, filtered through layers of selective reporting, technical limitation, and historical circumstance. What knowledge has been lost, and what truths remain buried beneath both ice and bureaucracy? As we contemplate these gaps, we are forced to consider the limits of historical record-keeping in extreme environments. Antarctica is a land where the act of observing is itself perilous, where every log, note, or photograph must endure harsh conditions, and where human oversight can intersect with institutional discretion. The missing pages, altered entries, and suppressed reports collectively suggest that the continent's history is not fully revealed, leaving room for questions, speculation, and continued investigation. Could these missing records hold clues to unexplained anomalies, subglacial landscapes, or events that defy current understanding? And if so, how much of Antarctica's past remains hidden, waiting for someone patient enough to uncover it? In the end, the story of missing expedition logs and altered records is a reminder that Antarctica's mysteries are not only natural but also human in origin. The continent is a space where ice, rock, and isolation intersect with secrecy, curiosity, and interpretation. Every absent page, every redacted line, and every inconsistent report serves as a silent testament to the unknown. What other secrets might lie buried, not only beneath the ice, but within the fragments of history that explorers, scientists, and institutions have left behind? And how might these gaps, small though they may seem, reshape our understanding of the world's most enigmatic continent? As we move from the enigmatic absence of expedition logs and the curious alterations in historical records, our attention turns to a more distant past, one that stretches back millennia, long before the modern era of exploration. Antarctica, as we know it today, is a frozen expanse of ice and rock, but in prehistoric epochs, it was once a temperate land, covered in forests, rivers, and lakes, home to reptiles and a variety of life forms now preserved only in fossils. Could it be that fragments of knowledge about this southern continent survived through the ages, carried across generations in myths, maps, and obscure records? Could ancient civilizations have known of a vast southern land long before humans set foot upon it in modern times? The concept of a southern landmass is not purely speculative. Ancient cartographers and scholars often referred to a terra australis incognita, a mysterious continent imagined to balance the landmasses of the northern hemisphere. Classical texts from Greece, Rome, and later Europe described this hypothetical southern land as both immense and remote. On maps dating back to the 15th and 16th centuries, cartographers rendered coastlines and mountain ranges that, remarkably, resemble the actual contours of Antarctica's northern coast, albeit ice-free. How could mapmakers depict these features with such precision when the continent itself had not yet been formally discovered? Were these purely imaginative constructions, or did they preserve some fragment of genuine prehistoric knowledge passed down through unknown channels? The maps themselves are intriguing. The Piri Reis map of 1513, for example, shows southern coastlines that correspond to modern Antarctic topography, with striking accuracy in proportion and shape. Some historians suggest this is coincidence or the result of extrapolating from known lands, yet the level of detail is difficult to ignore. Other charts from the era depict southern land masses as temperate, featuring rivers, mountains, and regions free of ice, consistent with geological evidence indicating Antarctica's climate before the continent became glaciated. Could these ancient depictions hint at knowledge derived from a time when humans, or advanced civilizations, might have traveled farther south than conventional history acknowledges? Historical texts add another layer of intrigue. Some Egyptian, Babylonian, and Phoenician sources refer to lands beyond familiar seas, described as lush, fertile, and inhabited, lying far to the south or beyond known horizons. While the language is often symbolic, certain recurring details, mountain ranges, large rivers, and climates distinct from known regions, mirror features later confirmed beneath the ice. Could these texts be echoes of actual exploration or even oral traditions preserved across cultures? And if so, why did knowledge of such a continent fade, replaced by maps that increasingly relied on conjecture and imagination? Geological and paleontological evidence strengthens the possibility that prehistoric humans could have interacted, directly or indirectly, with this southern land. Fossils of forests, ferns, and reptiles confirm that Antarctica was once hospitable, a green world capable of supporting life. Subglacial lakes, sediment layers, and fossilized footprints hint at environments that could have been navigable or even settled during warmer periods. Could early humans, seafarers, or unknown civilizations have reached these lands, charting coasts and rivers that would later appear, albeit indirectly, on maps centuries later? The challenge lies in understanding how knowledge could have persisted. Ancient civilizations demonstrated remarkable navigational skills. Polynesians, Egyptians, Phoenicians, and Greeks mastered long-distance travel using stars, ocean currents, and natural indicators. They transmitted geographic knowledge across generations, sometimes encoded in myths, oral traditions, or symbolic artifacts. Could it be that knowledge of a southern continent survived in these forms, hidden within stories of distant lands or obscure cartographic sources, waiting for rediscovery by later explorers? Speculative theories suggest even more fascinating possibilities. Some researchers propose that the maps and texts reflect not mere observation, but advanced understanding of geography lost to time. Could ancient explorers have recorded features now buried beneath kilometers of ice, preserved in ways that defy direct archaeological validation? Others posit that these depictions are remnants of knowledge from a prehistoric global network of seafarers who documented coastlines, rivers, and mountains now concealed by ice and millennia of environmental change. While evidence remains circumstantial, the consistency of certain details across maps and cultures is striking. Archaeological evidence is, of course, limited by ice and isolation. Unlike more temperate regions where ruins and artifacts survive in abundance, Antarctica's extreme climate erases physical traces. Yet the possibility remains that the continent harbors remnants of human activity, preserved beneath glacial layers, awaiting discovery. Could subglacial caverns, hidden valleys, or ice-covered plains conceal tools, symbols, or structures that correspond to the knowledge hinted at in ancient maps? And if so, what does this imply about humanity's reach and understanding in prehistoric times? The implications extend beyond physical evidence. If knowledge of a southern continent persisted across cultures and centuries, it suggests a continuity of observation and record-keeping far beyond what conventional history accounts for. It challenges assumptions about the limits of exploration in pre-modern eras and invites us to reconsider the sources of ancient geographic knowledge. Were myths of distant southern lands merely imaginative speculation, or do they preserve traces of observation, now encoded in maps, stories, and symbols that span continents and epochs? Ultimately, prehistoric knowledge of a southern continent raises profound questions about the interplay of memory, myth, and observation. It reminds us that Antarctica's mysteries are not solely the product of modern science or recent exploration. They are layered, accumulated, and concealed across time. The continent has long been a guardian of secrets, not only of ice and rock, but of human curiosity, imagination, and perhaps knowledge lost to history. What stories, observations, and discoveries have been buried beneath ice and obscured in maps and texts? And what might future exploration reveal about the depth of prehistoric understanding that preceded our modern gaze? In contemplating these possibilities, we are reminded that Antarctica is not simply a frozen land. It is a repository of deep history, a place where nature and human imagination intersect. The traces of prehistoric knowledge, faint and fragmentary though they may be, suggest a continent that was known, recorded, and perhaps even visited long before the modern era. What other remnants of that ancient understanding remain hidden beneath ice, waiting to challenge everything we think we know about humanity's early interaction with the southernmost reaches of our planet? From whispers of prehistoric knowledge and the tantalizing hints preserved in ancient maps, we arrive at a question that has puzzled historians and explorers for centuries. Who truly discovered Antarctica? The continent that now stretches, frozen and forbidding, across the southernmost reaches of the planet is often credited to early 19th century explorers. Yet, when we examine the evidence closely, a far more complex and uncertain picture emerges, filled with obscure sightings, lost voyages, and claims that challenge the conventional narrative. Antarctica is not a place easily revealed. Its coasts are shrouded in ice, cliffs, and treacherous waters. Sea ice, storms, and drifting glaciers have hidden its shorelines from view for millennia. The first recorded sighting, according to widely accepted accounts, occurred in 1820, when Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen, a Russian naval officer, approached the icy edge of the continent. Simultaneously, British and American expeditions claimed to have glimpsed Antarctic shores around the same period. Yet, in examining earlier records, questions arise. Were these explorers truly the first? Or had others, centuries or even millennia before, glimpsed or even charted parts of the southern continent? Some researchers point to ancient mariners who may have sailed farther south than history recognizes. Polynesian navigators, Phoenician sailors, and other seafaring civilizations demonstrated extraordinary skill in traversing vast oceans. Could they, driven by curiosity or necessity, have reached the southern waters? While no definitive archaeological evidence confirms such voyages to Antarctica itself, anomalies in maps and textual references hint at lands far to the south, sometimes ice-free, sometimes mountainous, described in terms that resonate with modern Antarctic topography. Could these be traces of knowledge lost to time, a silent testament to early human exploration? Medieval and Renaissance maps provide another layer of intrigue. Certain 15th and 16th century charts depict southern continents with coastlines that, in striking detail, align with what we now recognize as parts of Antarctica's northern reaches. These depictions are often precise enough to suggest observation rather than imagination, showing rivers, bays, and mountain ranges. How did cartographers, centuries before systematic Antarctic expeditions, know of these contours? Were these maps informed by ancient voyages, oral knowledge, or possibly even speculation that coincidentally mirrored reality? And if explorers of antiquity had indeed ventured south, why does the historical record remain so sparse? The 18th and early 19th centuries introduced recorded attempts to reach the Antarctic regions. James Cook's voyage between 1772 and 1775 brought him closer than anyone before to the icy southern waters, yet he never sighted the continental landmass. Cook circumnavigated the Antarctic Circle, documenting islands and ice shelves, laying the groundwork for future explorers. But the continent itself remained elusive. Was this absence merely due to the harsh environment, or were there features, shifting ice, hidden bays, that kept the land concealed even from determined observers? The official discovery of Antarctica in 1820 is often attributed to three individuals: Bellingshausen, Edward Bransfield of Britain, and American Nathaniel Palmer. Each has a plausible claim, yet each also leaves unanswered questions. Bellingshausen's logbooks describe an icy landmass with clarity and precision, yet portions of these records were obscured in translation or remained unpublished for decades. Bransfield charted coastal areas of the Antarctic Peninsula, producing maps that influenced later exploration. Palmer, a young American sealer, may have cited parts of the Antarctic Peninsula independently. With overlapping dates and incomplete records, determining priority becomes difficult. Were they truly the first humans to see the continent, or merely the first whose sightings were officially recognized and documented? Even in modern scholarship, uncertainty persists. Examination of earlier expedition logs, sailors' diaries, and naval records suggests that other seafarers, often anonymous or lost to history, may have glimpsed southern ice masses before 1820. Whalers, sealers, and traders navigating treacherous southern waters sometimes reported encountering large ice formations or distant mountains emerging from the sea. These reports were rarely corroborated, often unpublished, and sometimes dismissed as exaggeration. Could the true first sighting lie hidden among these fragmented accounts, lost to time and obscured by the anonymity of those who recorded it? Geography itself complicates matters. Antarctica's coastline is irregular, with ice shelves extending far beyond rock formations. Early observers may have seen floating ice, icebergs, or peninsulas, and interpreted them as part of a larger landmass, or conversely, may have overlooked actual land due to concealment beneath ice. Even with modern satellite imagery, understanding the continent's contours remains a challenge, suggesting that early explorers faced obstacles as much environmental as logistical. How many of the first sightings captured actual land, and how many were illusions created by shifting ice and snow? Speculative theories have emerged alongside documented history. Some argue that prehistoric civilizations may have recorded Antarctic coastlines in ancient texts or maps that later informed Renaissance cartography. Others suggest that forgotten voyages of Phoenicians, Egyptians, or other seafaring peoples may have reached southern ice-free regions, transmitting knowledge orally or symbolically. While these ideas remain unverified, they underscore the ambiguity surrounding Antarctica's discovery and the possibility that our current understanding is only part of a much larger, hidden story. The human impulse to claim discovery also plays a role. Nations and explorers have long sought recognition, prestige, and territorial advantage. This competitive drive may have influenced which accounts were recorded, published, and celebrated, leaving other sightings in obscurity. Could the official narrative of discovery, celebrated in history books, reflect not only environmental reality, but also the politics and priorities of its time? And if so, how many human encounters with the southern continent remain unrecognized, their details lost, or ignored. Ultimately, the question of who truly discovered Antarctica invites reflection on the nature of exploration itself. Discovery is rarely straightforward. It is shaped by observation, documentation, interpretation, and recognition. Antarctica's extreme conditions, hidden landscapes, and centuries of fragmented records ensure that this question cannot be answered definitively. Perhaps the continent has always been partially hidden, not only by ice but by the limits of human perception and memory, allowing its revelation to unfold gradually over centuries, across cultures, and through multiple lenses of observation. As we consider the mystery of Antarctica's first discovery, we are reminded that the continent resists simple narratives. Its shores may have been glimpsed by ancient navigators, sketched in maps long before modern expeditions, and recorded in logs now lost or altered. Who truly saw Antarctica first may remain unknown, yet the pursuit of that knowledge illuminates the remarkable courage, curiosity, and persistence of those who ventured into the planet's southernmost reaches. And as we ponder the layers of history, observation, and speculation, we are left with a deeper sense of awe. The land itself has witnessed human exploration in ways we may never fully reconstruct, preserving its secrets beneath ice and time, inviting us to wonder what else lies hidden in its frozen expanse. From the mysteries of discovery and the elusive footsteps of early explorers, we now turn to structures far more modern, yet no less enigmatic. Abandoned and sealed research sites scattered across Antarctica's frozen expanse. These stations, some erected during the height of the 20th century's scientific and military initiatives, stand as silent sentinels, metal, concrete, and glass swallowed gradually by drifting snow and relentless ice. Their corridors are empty, laboratories unused, and yet they resonate with the lingering presence of human curiosity, effort, and secrecy. What was recorded, studied, or observed within these walls? And why were some of these sites shuttered and left untouched for decades, their contents preserved or hidden beneath layers of ice and time? The history of Antarctic research stations is a story of ambition and endurance. Nations from across the globe established outposts to study climate, geology, glaciology, and biology, braving extreme cold, blizzards, and isolation. Early 20th century bases were modest, often little more than wooden huts, while mid-century stations became more elaborate, equipped with laboratories, communication equipment, and observation towers. These facilities represented humanity's first permanent presence on a continent otherwise inhospitable, and the data they produced laid the foundation for our understanding of polar science. Yet for all their scientific contributions, many of these stations were abandoned abruptly, their corridors left empty, and their archives sometimes inaccessible to the public. Consider the case of stations established during the post-World War II era. Some were constructed with military support, intended to advance meteorological and geophysical knowledge, or to assert territorial claims under the veil of scientific research. Others were entirely civilian but faced logistical challenges, from supply shortages to structural failures caused by shifting ice and permafrost. Over time, certain stations were dismantled, while others were simply sealed and left in place. Today, satellite imagery reveals these locations as frozen monuments, roofs and walls partially obscured, as if Antarctica itself is reclaiming what humans once imposed upon it. What makes these abandoned sites particularly intriguing are the circumstances surrounding their closure. In some instances, stations were evacuated due to environmental hazards or political decisions. In others, the reasons are less clear. Records may indicate sudden departures, unexplained gaps in scientific logs, or portions of equipment and documentation left behind. In certain cases, sealed compartments remain untouched, their contents unknown. Were sensitive experiments conducted here, Perhaps measurements of magnetic, gravitational, or atmospheric anomalies that were never fully explained? Or were these sites abandoned simply due to logistical constraints, leaving behind nothing more than empty rooms and rusting metal? Some of these locations intersect with the broader mysteries of Antarctica. Satellite imagery has revealed structures in remote areas, often surrounded by unusual geological features, subglacial lakes, or topographic anomalies. The juxtaposition of abandoned stations with these natural enigmas raises questions. Were these sites established to study phenomena that were not publicly disclosed? Were they strategically positioned to observe subglacial caverns, ice dynamics, or electromagnetic anomalies? And if so, what did the data reveal, and why is it largely absent from public archives? The human aspect adds another layer of fascination. Life in these stations was extreme. Months of isolation, 24-hour darkness in winter, and a reliance on limited supplies created an environment both physically and psychologically demanding. Diaries, logs, and personal notes from researchers describe an uncanny stillness, sudden storms, and occasional encounters with phenomena that defied conventional explanation. Strange lights over the ice, unexplained interference in instruments, or even fleeting visual anomalies in the landscape. While many of these accounts are anecdotal, they contribute to a sense that abandoned stations are more than mere infrastructure. They are repositories of human experience, observation, and perhaps encounters with the unexpected. Over the decades, some abandoned sites have become partially studied through aerial surveys, satellite imagery, and remote sensing. Yet much remains inaccessible. Ice shifts, snow accumulation, and extreme weather conceal doors, tunnels, and storage areas, preserving them like time capsules beneath layers of frost. Could they contain original logbooks, scientific samples, or photographic evidence that might shed new light on phenomena such as subglacial lakes, magnetic anomalies, or even historical expeditions? And if these materials exist, why have they not been fully explored or released to the scientific community? The question of secrecy also lingers. Certain sites established during periods of geopolitical tension, particularly the Cold War, were dual purpose: scientific research and strategic observation. Governments may have maintained classified records, equipment, or experiments whose results were never publicly disclosed. In other cases, documentation was lost or deliberately withheld, leaving gaps in the historical record. The consequence is a landscape not only of ice and stone, but of hidden human endeavor, where abandoned stations serve as both literal and symbolic markers of knowledge partially obscured from view. The very act of abandonment amplifies the aura of mystery. A sealed research site is simultaneously accessible and forbidden. Its emptiness evokes curiosity while preserving uncertainty. Researchers who have visited such locations describe a surreal quiet, broken only by wind and creaking metal. Instruments frozen in place, papers stiffened by cold, and supplies preserved like relics, all hint at the human effort invested, yet leave questions unanswered. What discoveries were underway when the doors were closed? Were anomalies recorded, specimens collected, or observations made that challenge our understanding of Antarctica's landscape and history? Speculative theories extend beyond logistical and political explanations. Some suggest that sealed sites may have been positioned to monitor phenomena invisible to casual observation: subglacial formations, unusual radio signals, or gravitational anomalies. Others propose more controversial ideas, hinting at human knowledge of structures or landscapes that the public was not meant to see. While evidence for such claims is limited, the convergence of abandoned stations with mysterious terrain, anomalies, and historical gaps invites reflection on the hidden layers of Antarctica's story. Ultimately, abandoned and sealed research sites are reminders of both human ambition and limitation. They are monuments to curiosity, endurance, and the desire to understand one of Earth's most extreme environments. Yet they are also repositories of uncertainty, spaces where instruments may have captured data, where logs may contain observations unseen for decades, and where questions linger unanswered. They underscore the delicate balance between exploration and concealment, knowledge and mystery. As we contemplate these forsaken stations, we are reminded that Antarctica's narrative is not fully written. The continent holds the remnants of human endeavor alongside its natural enigmas, and the silence of these abandoned sites amplifies the unknown. What remains within these frozen laboratories, locked behind doors sealed by time and ice? What stories, data, or anomalies might they reveal if rediscovered? And perhaps most compellingly, how many other sites, undiscovered or hidden, remain scattered across the vast southern expanse, silently preserving secrets that continue to elude us? From the silent corridors of abandoned and sealed research stations, our gaze shifts across the ice to the remarkable pattern of human presence that dots Antarctica today. Despite its vast, frozen expanse, research bases are rarely scattered randomly. Instead, they often cluster in strategic locations along coasts, near ice-free areas, or in proximity to unique geological and scientific features. At first glance, this may appear practical, a matter of logistics, safety, and resource access. But when we examine the geography and history of these bases more closely, questions emerge. Why are certain regions densely populated with scientific stations, while others, equally accessible, remain almost entirely untouched? Is there more to this pattern than the demands of science, or could deeper hidden factors influence the placement of these human outposts? The Antarctic landscape is vast, hostile, and largely uniform in its icy surface. Yet subtle distinctions make certain areas preferable for habitation. Coastal regions with exposed rock, sheltered bays, and access to open water provide natural harbors, landing areas, and routes for supply ships. The Antarctic Peninsula, Victoria Land, and parts of East Antarctica host clusters of bases that take advantage of these conditions. On these peninsulas, one can observe American, Russian, Chinese, British, and other national stations within striking distance of one another, often separated by just a few kilometers, despite the surrounding expanse of ice and snow. While proximity may ease coordination and safety, the density of these clusters raises questions. Are there shared scientific goals that necessitate such closeness? Or are there other factors, geological, strategic, or even secret, that guide these patterns of settlement? Historically, the placement of research stations has followed a combination of scientific interest and geopolitical ambition. During the Cold War, nations invested in Antarctic presence to assert influence, monitor rivals, and secure access to territory under the guise of scientific research. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 sought to limit territorial claims and promote peaceful cooperation, yet strategic considerations still shaped decisions. Proximity to other stations allowed easier surveillance of rival operations, rapid sharing of supplies, and, potentially, monitoring of anomalies in the landscape, climate, or electromagnetic signals. Could these factors explain why certain clusters appear in regions that, from a purely scientific standpoint, might seem redundant? Geography itself adds another layer of intrigue. Clusters frequently appear near subglacial lakes, ice shelves, and mountain ranges, areas that have been linked to geological, magnetic, and even gravitational anomalies. Some researchers have speculated that these placements are not coincidental. Are scientists unintentionally following patterns dictated by the continent's hidden topography? Or could planners have been aware of unusual features that warranted concentrated observation? In some cases, stations are positioned to triangulate data across multiple bases, providing comprehensive monitoring of a region. Yet the choice of specific sites, sometimes near anomalous terrain, hidden valleys, or unexplored subglacial formations, raises questions about the depth of knowledge guiding these decisions. Clusters are also shaped by accessibility and logistics. Helicopter pads, airstrips, and supply routes are expensive and dangerous to establish, so bases naturally gravitate toward areas where infrastructure can be shared or replicated. Yet even accounting for these practical factors, the density of human activity in certain regions remains striking. Some coastal zones host multiple stations within a few kilometers, each run by a different nation with its own scientific mandate. The surrounding ice, mountains, and crevasses are empty for hundreds of kilometers. Yet here, in a precise band, human presence is concentrated. Is this purely convenience, or does it reflect knowledge of hidden features beneath the ice? Subglacial lakes, magnetic anomalies, or other phenomena that require simultaneous observation from multiple vantage points? The phenomenon extends to the temporal dimension as well. Life in clustered bases allows social and psychological support as researchers experience isolation, darkness, and extreme weather. Stations within proximity enable medical assistance, evacuation routes, and communication networks, providing a semblance of community amid desolation. Yet the choice to cluster also places multiple nations within close view of each other, creating a complex environment where cooperation, observation, and subtle competition coexist. How might these dynamics influence decisions about where to establish, expand, or abandon stations, and what might they reveal about the broader story of human presence in Antarctica? Ultimately, the strategic clustering of research bases is a reflection of both practicality and mystery. It demonstrates the ways in which geography, science, politics, and human psychology converge in one of the planet's most extreme environments. While some explanations are straightforward, logistics, safety, shared infrastructure, the repeated density of stations in certain regions, especially near unusual geological features, hints at layers of purpose that remain partially hidden. What drove the planners to concentrate bases in these locations, and what knowledge informed their choices? Could hidden anomalies, historical secrets, or unrecognized features of the landscape have guided these decisions, quietly shaping the pattern of human settlement across the ice? As we contemplate the clusters of human presence, a sense of mystery lingers. Antarctica is not merely a frozen wasteland, it is a place of concentrated human endeavor, of overlapping scientific ambition, and perhaps of subtle secrecy. The arrangement of these bases invites us to question not only what is studied, but why certain areas attract sustained attention while vast expanses remain empty. And as we consider the unseen features, both natural and possibly artificial, that lie beneath the ice, we are left with an enduring question. What else might these clusters reveal about Antarctica's hidden landscapes, its anomalies, and the knowledge humanity has sought to preserve, monitor, or conceal in the southernmost reaches of the world? As we shift our focus from the deliberate placement of research bases across the icy continent, the mind begins to drift beyond recorded history into epochs when Antarctica may have looked very different, when its ice sheets were absent and its land teemed with life. Some researchers and theorists have explored the possibility that Antarctica was known, inhabited, or at least observed in periods before the great deluges described in myths and ancient texts. Could there have been a time when the southern continent was not a frozen wasteland, but a fertile, accessible landmass, one that left traces of its existence in maps, oral traditions, or geological records? Antarctica, as we see it today, is a land of extremes. Vast ice sheets stretching for thousands of kilometers, glaciers carving valleys into rock, and subglacial lakes hidden beneath kilometers of frozen water. Yet geological evidence tells a different story. Fossils of forests, ferns, and reptiles point to a much warmer past, with a climate capable of sustaining diverse ecosystems. In these distant times, long before recorded human history, the continent may have been ice-free, a land of rivers, lakes, and coastal plains. Could some of this pre-flood Antarctica have been observed, recorded, or remembered by early civilizations whose knowledge later filtered into myths of lost lands and global inundation? Some proponents of pre-flood theories suggest that ancient cartography offers tantalizing hints. Maps from the 15th and 16th centuries depict southern continents with coastlines that remarkably correspond to the northern edges of Antarctica. On the Peary Race map of 1513, for instance, detailed outlines show rivers, mountains, and bays, features consistent with a landmass not buried under ice, yet this map was drawn centuries before the continent's official discovery. Were these depictions mere speculation, imaginative reconstructions? Or could they preserve echoes of knowledge passed down from civilizations that existed before cataclysmic events reshaped the Earth's surface? Legends of great floods, from Mesopotamian epics to ancient texts across multiple continents, often describe lands that disappeared beneath rising waters. Could Antarctica, in its ice-free state, have been one of these lost regions? Geological research shows that ice sheets expanded dramatically over the last 10,000 to 12,000 years, coinciding with the end of the last ice age. If pre-flood civilizations did exist, or if humans had ventured farther south than conventional history allows, their records would have been submerged or erased, leaving only faint traces, stories, maps, and myths hinting at lands no longer accessible. Some scientists propose that subtle alignments in ancient knowledge may reflect this lost geography. Architectural patterns, star charts, and navigational lore from distant civilizations occasionally reference southern lands or climates inconsistent with known regions. While mainstream archaeology attributes these references to imaginative extrapolation or symbolic storytelling, the recurrence of similar motifs across cultures raises questions. Could these accounts, however veiled, preserve real observations of Antarctica before its ice sheets fully formed? Geological studies offer both confirmation and mystery. Sedimentary layers, fossilized flora, and glacial deposits indicate periods of warmth, ice retreat, and sudden climate shifts. In some cases, the abrupt onset of glaciation resembles the sudden flood described in mythologies, not as a literal deluge, but as a dramatic transformation of landscapes, ecosystems, and sea levels. Could early observers have witnessed or been aware of such transitions? And might they have encoded that awareness in maps or oral traditions, later interpreted symbolically? Pre-flood theories also consider the possibility of human interaction with Antarctica long before the age of modern exploration. Evidence is scarce, but proponents highlight anomalies in ancient maritime records, obscure inscriptions, or legends of southern lands that seem too consistent to dismiss entirely. While these claims remain speculative, they invite a reconsideration of what we define as human knowledge in prehistory. Could it be that Antarctica, once accessible and habitable, played a role in shaping early human understanding of geography, even if later buried under ice and obscured by time? Even the climate history of Antarctica supports the notion of a dramatically different past. Fossilized forests, pollen, and freshwater deposits indicate periods when the continent was warm enough to sustain vegetation and freshwater lakes. Ice core data reveal rapid climatic shifts, suggesting that Antarctica's transformation from fertile land to frozen desert was not gradual but sudden on a geological scale. This suddenness resonates with global myths of inundation and collapse, hinting at a period when lands now buried beneath ice may have been visible, explored, or mapped by early humans or their predecessors. Ultimately, the question of pre-flood Antarctica forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge. What was the continent like before its ice sheets expanded? Could human civilizations, or at least human awareness, have existed far enough south to record it in some way? are fragments of that knowledge preserved in ancient maps, myths, and unexplained anomalies scattered across the world. While evidence remains circumstantial, the convergence of geological, cartographic, and mythological data suggests that Antarctica's pre-flood story may hold insights not only about the land itself, but about the scope of human observation and memory. As we contemplate the frozen expanse today, it is difficult to imagine rivers, forests, and wildlife beneath the ice. Yet the geological record insists that such a time existed, and the faint traces of maps and myths hint that humans may have known or imagined these southern realms. What might still be hidden beneath Antarctica's ice, awaiting discovery? Could clues to our planet's distant past, and perhaps to early human awareness of this southern continent, lie preserved in its frozen depths, silently waiting for the day when curiosity and technology finally unveil the mysteries of a pre-flood world? From the distant echoes of pre-flood landscapes, we return to the human footprint upon Antarctica. This time, tracing the paths of the intrepid mariners who first ventured into its icy waters. Long before modern research stations, satellites, or aerial surveys, sealing and whaling ships braved the treacherous Southern Ocean, navigating between jagged icebergs, sudden storms, and near-constant winter darkness. These vessels, propelled by wind and human endurance, were the vanguard of human interaction with the southernmost reaches of the planet. Yet many of them vanished, leaving little but fragments of records, scattered artifacts, and unanswered questions. The 18th and 19th centuries marked the height of sealing and whaling expeditions to Antarctica. Ships, often modest in size and limited in technology, pushed southward from ports in Europe, South America, and Australasia, drawn by the lucrative trade in seal skins and whale oil. Records show some crews reaching farther south than contemporary explorers had dared, yet the fate of many vessels remains uncertain. Some logs report sudden disappearances, while accounts from survivors occasionally hint at sudden storms, ice entrapments, or encounters with uncharted hazards. These vanished ships leave behind more than a historical curiosity. They hint at the perilous nature of early Antarctic navigation, and perhaps at mysteries the ice itself preserves. Maps and historical records provide tantalizing glimpses of these voyages. Some whaling and sealing ships were documented as last seen near regions now covered by ice shelves, or within bays and straits whose geography has since shifted due to glacial expansion. Others simply disappeared from logs without explanation. Could these losses be attributed solely to the unpredictable fury of Antarctic weather, or might there be other, less obvious factors at play? Hidden channels, magnetic anomalies, or underwater hazards yet uncharted in these early centuries. And if some of these ships were trapped and crushed by shifting ice, is it possible that remnants of their hulls or cargo still lie preserved beneath layers of snow and frozen seawater? Eyewitness accounts, though rare, describe sudden changes in ice conditions. Icebergs appearing where none were predicted, sudden pressure ridges that crushed ships, or fog so thick that even the most experienced navigators could not maintain course. These stories, recorded in logs and journals, often verge on the uncanny. Sailors spoke of eerie silences when the wind died, strange lights reflected on the ice, and the sense that the continent itself was watching their passage. While contemporary historians often interpret these accounts as poetic embellishment, the consistency of reports across different crews and nationalities raises the question: did the early mariners encounter phenomena they could not explain? Natural, atmospheric, or otherwise? Some vanished ships are known only through indirect evidence. Supply caches left on ice floes, fragments of rigging found in coastal coves, or mentions in the journals of other expeditions hint at voyages that never returned. These remnants, though fragmentary, speak to the determination of early seafarers and the dangers inherent in southern waters. They also suggest that Antarctica, even centuries before permanent settlements, was a landscape of peril, where human knowledge collided with the extremes of environment and the unknown. The disappearances are not uniformly explained. In some cases, harsh weather and ice entrapment are clear culprits. In others, ships simply vanish from records without a trace, with no indication of storm, ice, or navigational error. Could some have drifted into hidden inlets, only to be entombed beneath snow and ice, preserved for centuries? Could there be undiscovered wrecks, lying intact under ice shelves or embedded in coastal rock, offering silent testimony to voyages long forgotten? The possibility sparks both scientific and historical intrigue. Every vanished vessel represents a story, frozen in time, waiting to be uncovered. Whaling and sealing ships often pursued resources to areas where modern researchers now report anomalies: subglacial lakes, magnetic disturbances, and unusual geological formations. While there is no direct evidence linking early mariners to such phenomena, the coincidence invites reflection. Were these sailors simply following whales and seals, or were there other, perhaps unrecognized reasons that led them to regions now considered mysterious? Could their logs, if fully preserved, reveal observations lost to time, shedding light on both natural and historical enigmas of Antarctica? The human element of these expeditions adds another dimension. Crews endured months at sea, extreme isolation, and near constant exposure to the cold. The mental and physical strain would have been immense. Diaries occasionally recount not only the practical challenges, but also moments of profound awe and fear. The sight of towering glaciers, roaring ice falls, and immense icebergs. Some journals hint at events that defy easy explanation: ships trapped in strange, shifting ice patterns, lights dancing on the horizon, or instruments behaving unpredictably. Whether the product of imagination, stress, or genuine anomaly, these accounts enhance the mystery surrounding vanished ships. Over time, the Antarctic coastline and ice shelves have shifted dramatically, potentially burying evidence of early seafaring. Glacial advances may have swallowed inlets once navigable, while calving ice shelves may have claimed ships that drifted too close. Modern sonar and remote sensing technology now offer a chance to locate these lost vessels, yet much of the Southern Ocean remains underexplored. Could wrecks lie beneath floating ice, preserved in near pristine condition, or have they been ground to fragments over centuries? Each possibility carries the allure of discovery, bridging the gap between human history and the continent's natural evolution. The vanished sealing and whaling ships also remind us of the thin line between survival and disappearance in Antarctica. Where permanent research bases now exist with satellite communications and emergency support, these early mariners relied solely on skill, observation, and luck. Their losses underscore the extreme unpredictability of the environment and hint at the hidden dangers that continue to shape the continent today. What lessons, records, or artifacts remain locked beneath ice, waiting to reveal not only the fate of these ships, but also the broader story of human endeavor in the southernmost reaches of the world? In contemplating these vanished ships, we confront both history and mystery. They are markers of early human courage, yet also silent witnesses to the continent's indifference to human presence. Each lost vessel invites questions. Where did it go? What did it observe? And what remnants might endure beneath ice and rock? Could these maritime ghosts hold clues to phenomena we have yet to understand, whether natural, climatic, or otherwise? And perhaps most provocatively, do the Southern Ocean and Antarctica itself guard secrets of these voyages, preserving evidence that could rewrite our understanding of human interaction with the most extreme and enigmatic continent on Earth? As time passes, the allure of these lost ships grows stronger, intertwined with the very essence of Antarctica's harsh and unforgiving nature. Modern expeditions continue to uncover remnants of past journeys, but they are often fragmented and scattered. These remnants, though seemingly insignificant, serve as quiet reminders of humanity's quest to understand a land that refuses to yield its secrets easily. With every new discovery, the possibility arises that somewhere, deep beneath the thickening ice, a ship, an entire expedition, awaits rediscovery, frozen in time. The question remains, will the passage of centuries have preserved it, or will the merciless march of the ice have obliterated it forever? In addition to the physical remnants of these voyages, there is the eerie sense of their silence. The journals, the logbooks, the scribbled notes. These remnants of human experience leave behind not only records of courage, but also of fear. They tell of long, cold nights under a canopy of stars, of staring out into the empty void of the Southern Ocean, and of wondering whether they would ever see land again. These were not just expeditions. They were lifelines, fragile threads between survival and oblivion. For those who vanished, the icy silence of Antarctica became their final, unyielding witness. It is also worth considering the historical context of these early expeditions, which were driven not only by the pursuit of wealth but by a thirst for discovery that often led sailors to challenge the very edge of the known world. Their motivations, complex and varied, speak to a broader human drive, one that sought to conquer the unknown, to stretch the limits of human endurance. In their quest, these men not only mapped Antarctica, but also shaped the future of exploration, laying the groundwork for the first permanent stations that would eventually rise from the ice. As we reflect on these voyages, we are reminded that Antarctica is not just a continent of ice and snow, but a vast archive of lost histories, stories of adventure, loss, and survival. The possibility that future generations may unearth more pieces of this frozen puzzle fills us with wonder and anticipation. What secrets, still locked away beneath the ice, will be uncovered? And what new stories will emerge, waiting to be added to the ever-expanding narrative of humanity's relationship with this mysterious and inhospitable land? From the echoes of vanished sealing and whaling ships, which once braved the icy fringes of Antarctica, we turn our attention to a silence far more profound, the absence of any recorded indigenous human history. Unlike every other continent, where even the most remote regions bear traces of ancient civilizations or long-standing human habitation, Antarctica presents a stark blank, a frozen expanse untouched by permanent human settlement until the modern era. This absence is striking not only for its rarity but also for the questions it provokes. Why does no human history exist here prior to recorded exploration? Was it always inhospitable, or have traces of early human presence been erased, obscured, or simply overlooked? Today, the continent is a place of extremes. Winds whip across vast plains of ice, temperatures plunge far below freezing, and seasonal darkness cloaks the land for months at a time. Life survives here, but only in sparse microbial colonies, penguin colonies, seals, and birds adapted to the harshest conditions on Earth. Yet, this was not always the case. Geological and fossil records reveal that Antarctica, tens of millions of years ago, was a vastly different world. Forests thrived, rivers carved fertile valleys, and reptiles once roamed the land. In these more temperate epochs, could humans have ventured this far south? And if so, why is there no evidence of occupation, artifacts, or cultural imprints as there are elsewhere across the globe? Ancient maps, myths, and pre-flood theories offer glimpses of the continent's past as a potentially habitable land. Some suggest that early seafarers or civilizations may have known of southern continents in vague and coded ways, preserved in oral traditions or cartographic reconstructions. Yet no archaeological evidence, tools, dwellings, art, or human remains has ever been found to substantiate a human presence. Could it be that any traces of such activity were erased by the continent's dramatic climate transformations, buried beneath kilometers of ice, or obliterated by the advance of glaciers? The absence of indigenous human history contrasts sharply with other remote regions. Consider the Arctic, Siberia, or the sub-Antarctic islands. Despite extreme cold, these regions bear evidence of human adaptation spanning thousands of years. People lived, hunted, and developed cultures capable of surviving hostile climates. Antarctica, on the other hand, shows no evidence of such activity prior to the 19th century. Was it merely the severity of the environment that prevented habitation, or could there have been other, less visible factors at play? Perhaps rapid climate shifts, sudden glaciation events, or even geological instability made sustained settlement impossible. Historical records of early exploration amplify the mystery. Mariners and explorers of the 18th and 19th centuries describe a land seemingly untouched by humans. They encountered pristine beaches, unbroken ice fields, and untouched colonies of penguins and seals. No tools, structures, or cultural artifacts were reported. Nothing to suggest prior visitation, except perhaps scattered legends of southern lands preserved in distant cultures. Yet these legends remain speculative, their details often vague or symbolic. The question remains, if humans had ever set foot here in prehistory, why is there no material evidence to corroborate it? Some scientists and theorists have considered more provocative possibilities. Could Antarctica have been accessible to prehistoric humans only briefly, during ice-free periods, before being rendered inhospitable by sudden climate collapse? Might entire settlements have been erased by glacial movement or submersion beneath rising seas during the last glacial-interglacial transition? Ice core samples and sediment analysis reveal rapid climate shifts occurring over centuries, transforming once livable areas into the frozen deserts we see today. Such dramatic environmental change could theoretically erase nearly all traces of human presence, leaving no archaeological record. Magnetic and gravitational anomalies, subglacial lakes, and hidden valleys add another layer of intrigue. Modern researchers have identified regions that seem unusual or strategically interesting, yet no evidence links them to past human activity. Could these features have influenced the movements of ancient visitors, or do they hint at secrets that remain inaccessible beneath kilometers of ice? Perhaps traces of human occupation exist, but deep below the surface, frozen and isolated, waiting to be revealed by future technological advances. The absence of indigenous human history also raises questions about knowledge transmission. If early civilizations had even minimal contact with Antarctica, or observed it from afar, how would they have interpreted the land? Some proponents of pre-flood or lost continent theories suggest that maps, myths, and navigational lore may encode fragments of this knowledge. Yet, without material evidence, such ideas remain speculative. Is it possible that Antarctica was known in fleeting glimpses or distant tales, only to vanish from human memory as the ice advanced and civilizations arose elsewhere? Even environmental and geological considerations offer only partial answers. Antarctica's remoteness, combined with extreme seasonal darkness and limited food sources, would have made sustained habitation extraordinarily difficult. But transient presence, temporary camps, hunting parties, or exploratory forays might have left subtle traces, now concealed beneath layers of ice. Could future drilling, sonar surveys, or ice-penetrating radar uncover remnants of such activity, rewriting our understanding of human adaptation and migration in the planet's extreme south? The silence of Antarctica before modern exploration is, in itself, a kind of mystery. While other continents tell a continuous story of human settlement, adaptation, and culture, Antarctica's history is a void. That void compels us to question, was it always uninhabited? Or have we yet to uncover the faint signatures of past explorers, vanished settlements, or transient visitors? Could the continent's frozen interior hide evidence of pre-modern human presence, deliberately or accidentally erased by ice and time? As we reflect on this absence, we are confronted by a paradox. Antarctica is at once one of the most studied and one of the least understood regions of Earth. Its extremes prevent indigenous settlement, yet leave tantalizing clues about its warmer, ice-free past. Could humans, perhaps fleetingly, have interacted with this southernmost land during those ancient epochs? Or does the silence of the ice tell a story of a world too harsh, too unpredictable, and too remote for permanent habitation until modern technology allowed us to endure its challenges? The void of indigenous human history invites contemplation. It is a silence that both frustrates and fascinates, challenging our assumptions about human reach and adaptability. And as we peer into the frozen expanse, it leaves us with a lingering question. What secrets might Antarctica still hold, preserved beneath its ice, waiting for the day when the story of humanity and the southern continent is finally revealed? In pondering this absence, one cannot ignore the remarkable resilience of human cultures in other extreme environments. From the frozen tundras of the Arctic to the barren deserts of the Sahara, humans have found ways to adapt, survive, and thrive. Yet in Antarctica, where conditions are far more severe, there is no trace of long-term human adaptation. Theories abound as to why. Was it the sheer isolation that kept humans at bay? Or did the continent's harsh conditions force early civilizations to focus their energies on more hospitable regions? Perhaps Antarctica has always held its secrets close, its icy boundaries too strong for even the most determined explorers of ancient times. Furthermore, the possibility that early humans encountered Antarctica only during fleeting, warmer periods of Earth's climatic history adds another layer of mystery. During the Eocene, when the continent was far warmer, did migratory or nomadic human groups venture into the land for brief periods only to vanish once the climate turned again? If this occurred, the traces they might have left behind could be too subtle for traditional archaeological methods to detect. Footprints, campfire remains, or tools now buried beneath miles of ice. Could there have been a brief window of time when the continent was not the frozen wasteland we know today? And if so, what might we uncover if we dig deep enough into its past? Intriguingly, some researchers propose that ancient civilizations may have known about Antarctica, not through direct contact, but via astronomical observations or through tales passed down through generations. Maps, such as the famous Peary Race map, have sparked debates about whether ancient peoples might have somehow recorded the position of the southern continent long before it was officially discovered. Could such knowledge have been encoded in ways that modern science has yet to fully decode? The idea that pre-Columbian explorers or advanced civilizations might have known of Antarctica's existence only to see it vanish from their collective memory is a captivating thought, blurring the line between myth and history. As the field of glaciology and remote sensing technology progresses, the potential for new discoveries increases. Techniques such as ice-penetrating radar and subglacial exploration may one day uncover hidden evidence of early human activity, allowing us to rewrite the history of Antarctica. Until then, the silence of the continent remains a profound enigma, its frozen expanse holding its secrets tightly. Each new discovery, however small, adds another piece to the puzzle. Could these buried remnants of human presence finally be the key to unlocking the mystery of Antarctica's history, revealing the story of a lost chapter that has long evaded our understanding?